The meeting is also being live streamed on YouTube. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in the New Jersey Herald. It was also posted on the Sparta Township website and its bulletin board in accordance with all provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Also, no new business or testimony to be heard after 9:30 PM, and we adjourn the meeting at 10 PM sharp. It's a practice of this board to salute the flag. Please rise and join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
Here.
Michael Josephic,
Here.
Richard LaRufa,
Here.
Michael Leondi,
Here.
Richard Rohrbacher,
Here.
Lena Tenieri,
Here.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
Here. Thank you. We have two resolutions to be memorialized. The first one is application 13-24, Stephen Cashone, block 3015, lot 16, the R3 zone, decided on January 8, 2025 for C variance relief. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Any discussion? Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
Yes.
Michael Josephic,
Yes.
Richard LaRufa,
Yes.
Michael Leondi,
Yes.
Lena Tenieri,
Yes.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
Yes. Also have application 19-24, Charles Warner, block 4001, lot 151, R3 zone, decided on January 8, 2025 for C variance relief. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
Yes.
Michael Josephic,
Yes.
Richard LaRufa,
Yes.
Michael Leondi,
Yes.
Lena Tenieri,
Yes.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
Yes. We also have minutes to be approved from November 13th, 2024. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
Yes.
Michael Josephic,
Yes.
Richard LaRufa,
Yes.
Michael Leondi,
Yes.
Richard Rohrbacher,
Yes.
Lena Tenieri,
Yes.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
Yes. Also, we have minutes from December 11th, 2024 to be approved. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second?
Any discussion? Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
Yes.
Michael Josephic,
Yes.
Richard LaRufa,
Abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
sorry. Michael Leondi,
Yes.
Richard Rohrbacher,
I abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Lena Tenieri,
I will abstain as well. I was not at the meeting.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
Yes. We also have correspondence for our revised meeting dates for this board for 2025. If you notice on the list, October 8th and January 14th were the two revised dates, just for the record.
I'm sorry, January what?
January 14th, 2026, and October 8th. There were two misprints originally on the list, so they're correct now. Okay, any questions on that? All right, for the public hearing tonight, we have application 619, 711 for extension of time. We also have application 12-24, Sussex County Charter Tech School for D variance relief. Also, application 1323 for Dor Anderson, the D variance relief. Application 3-23 and 4-23, John Maselli, Rocco Cerfulo, block 32004, lots 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the R2Z zone for C variance relief, and also block 32006, lots 5, 6, 7, and 8 for C variance relief will be carried to the March 12th, 2025 meeting with further notice required for both applications. And after the applications are heard tonight, I'll open the hearing to the public for comments and questions that are not on the agenda tonight. All right, the first application, 7-Eleven, please come forward for the extension of time.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jason Tubal, attorney for the applicant. We're here for a 6-month extension. I've been speaking with both the board attorney, Mr. Keynes, and the board engineer, Mr. Simmons, on this. So we need an additional 6 months beyond January of this year from when our last extension would have expired. 7-Eleven did obtain all of its outside agency approvals as well as all of the resolution compliance items. So they did do that. The issue is the extensions were granted or were asked for previously due to COVID and due to the fact that 7-Eleven as a corporation purchased Speedway, and a lot of the projects that were in the pipeline were put on hold. We are ready to proceed. All the compliance documents have been sent to Mr. Simmons. The main item that we have to work on in the next 6 months is the fact that despite the fact that we got our DOT and DEP permits, we have to renew them. Unlike maybe a land use application where we just come here and ask for the extension, we have to renew them. So what we discussed with Mr. Simmons and with Mr. Keynes is that if the board were inclined to grant the extension for those 6 months, we would provide them with we'd provide those professionals as well as the board with a schedule for our construction timeline, as well as keeping them abreast of those outside agency permits with the goal to start construction by July. So we're asking for that extension. It was very accommodating of Mr. Simmons and Mr. Keynes to work with us on a solution to make sure that now that we're ready to go forward, that we can work with. So I appreciate that.
You know, Mr. Tavel, I've been on this board for almost 25 years, I hate to admit. And I've never seen this board, not these members, other board members, of course, in the past, grant more than 3 extensions. This was set precedent tonight if we grant a 4th extension to your client. But let me just finish a minute.
Sure.
It seems to always be the same issue with construction and budget, delays, budget and construction. Does it have anything to do what 7-Eleven is going through, the 7 & I Holdings parent company that runs 7-Eleven stores in regard to Circle K, KKR, Itucho, ITOCHU, Bain Capital, all coming together one way or another for a merger or buying out 7-Eleven. So that's my only concern. It just keeps going on and on and on. And I think it's more than budget and construction. Fine what you did with Mr. Simmons and Mr. Keynes, but it's getting a little out of hand now. And with all this going on, I think that's the issue, that your client is sort of waiting to see what happens with one of these buyouts or mergers. And this board is not in the business of granting extensions to satisfy a potential financial outcome of your client.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying regarding those issues. All I would say to you is I've not been made aware of those financial or business considerations that
Really?
that you've talked about. Me personally, I've not been. When I asked the client about the basis for the request, it had to do with the fact that things were on hold during COVID, and then the only financial consideration given that I was told about was the Speedway acquisition that took place several years ago. But it's up to the board, and I think that's part of the reason why we discussed, unlike a typical extension where you would ask for the 1 year and then go about your business, that we'd have to give the board and its professionals a timeline for all of these milestones. And that's also why I think Mr. Keynes, when I approached him about this issue, and I know he's not here, so it's hard for me to speak for him. Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, is he on by? Oh, okay. Is he basically held me on a very tight leash that we couldn't ask for another year. and that at a minimum, that at most we'd get 6 months, and that there would be a lot of stipulations that we would have to deal with as part of the extension. And we were willing to, and we are willing to work with the board, should they be willing to do so, on those items. I do think, unlike your tenure on the board, Mr. Chairman, which is 25 years, and that's great. I've now been doing land use for 21. I know Glenn's got me beat, but you did have the COVID situation occur. Literally, I was looking at the resolution that granted this. It literally happened 2 months after the resolution was adopted. So I do agree with the statement that you made earlier, which is A, it's unusual, and B, the board is not in the business of dealing with the financial issues of applicants. I don't disagree with any of that. So that's why, but in this situation, you did have COVID, and, you know, I'm asking for one more of 6 months, with us having to be on top of these outside agency approvals and construction phasing with your professionals. The board, you know, it's up to you, but I understand and I respect what you said. I do think, though, that the situation is somewhat unique versus the prior years that you have served on the board where you didn't have the COVID issue. But it's up to you, and I can assure you that we will work diligently with the board, Mr. Keynes and Mr. Simmons' office, to keep them posted on where we are.
You know, Mr. Tovall, with the COVID issue, that's a while back.
I understand.
2 more extensions after that.
I'm not disagreeing with you on a lot of what you're saying, but I do think it's a little bit unique. And like I said, unlike a typical extension where I would say, give us the 1 year and we'll be back and hopefully we'll get it done, I am completely on board with what, and again, it's up to the board to do it, but what we discussed with Mr. Keynes and Mr. Simmons regarding certain timeframes that have to be abided by, certain almost reporting and providing of schedules that have to be done. And if it's not done by that July date, then we can't come back and ask for another one. And that's it. So I'm almost pleading with you to give us one more chance within this 6 month period. And if we can't do it, we understand we won't be back. Or we will be and have to start again.
Thank you, Mr. Tovall. Marissa, would you call on the board members for questions, please?
Jennifer Pinaha.
Hi, I have a couple questions. I think the part that's most difficult for me in granting some kind of extension is that the area where 7-Eleven is proposing to build, you've got those 4 lots there, right? So you've got 7-Eleven, you've got a corner lot that's vacant, then you've got an auto parts store, and then you've got the other one. And in that time, it's become really run down. There's a lot of litter on the empty lots, and the auto parts store is, you know, in a state of decay. So I'm just wondering, you know, is there some way that we could, I don't know, and I also feel like there's a lot of complexity around what 7-Eleven is going through. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to their corporate stuff, and that may impact this, you know, this building schedule. It seems to me to be volatile because there's just a lot going on with them.
Sorry.
You know, so I just wonder if there's some way that we could, first of all, get the commitment to clean up the property and make some improvements so that we're not dealing with a state of decay while we're, you know, waiting, and maybe, you know, entertain a shorter time frame, because unless you can get those permits quickly, it just seems like we're probably going to be in another year, you know, waiting zone, right?
Yeah, so can I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Is that okay? So I'm fine with your stipulation on the maintenance of the site. I'm not personally aware of it, but if there are things that have to be done, we will do that. And if that's a condition of the resolution, we would do that. And the request, per my conversation with Mr. Keynes, was not for an additional year like a typical extension would be. It's only for 6 months. So it wouldn't be, so that way we were held on like a tighter leash, so to speak, to report back to the board on timing.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to seem doubtful about being able to complete that, but it sounds like you're trying to break ground in July, so that's, you know, It's just at the very end of the very end, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, if we could do it sooner, we would do it. I just felt that when we talked about whether I could ask for another year, I was told ask for 6 months, so that's what I asked for. But if the board wanted to give us a shorter time frame to, try to see if we can get into to push us harder. I mean, I know I have the commitment from the client. They've indicated that to me. I've brought my professionals on calls with Mr. Simmons and Mr. Keene so they could explain where we are in the process as well. So they've been authorized to move forward, but we'd be willing to work with the board on any stipulations that you felt were appropriate in connection with the extension.
Do you have any insights on how much longer it's going to take to get those permits? Are they in process or how?
Yeah, so what we discussed, I don't know, Glenn, if you want to jump in as well, but what we discussed was we'd be able to start construction hopefully sooner rather than later, before July, on the site, get comfort letters from the DOT that they're going to renew the approvals that they originally provided. The septic approval from DEP, my engineers feel we should be able to get before that timeframe expires. So it was only the DOT issue, which we could get the comfort letter, and then we would bond for those areas, but start work before that. So the goal would be to start by that July date. We think it's possible, and that's what we were trying to work out with Mr. Simmons' office as well. Sure.
Michael Joseph.
Yeah, I was just struggling a little bit. You seem to be hopping back and forth. Initially, you wanted to ask for another year, and you were advised in your conversation with Mr. Keynes that, that probably wouldn't be palatable to the board, so maybe go for 6 months. And now all of a sudden you seem gung-ho that this can be done in 6 months. I'm just kind of struggling to, I guess, understand if this could even be done.
So once I was told that would be the maximum date that we could ask for, we went back to our professionals and kind of worked through those items. And then when we understood what those issues would be, that's when we got Mr. Keynes and Mr. Simmons on the phone to discuss them, and we worked out sort of a timeline to try to figure out how to get started on construction. So it was really, once we were told to ask for 6 months, we tried to work through how to get to where we want to be by that period. So that was kind of what drove that time frame. And also, I don't know if everybody was on the board at that time. I know some board members were, but we also, really worked with the neighbors on this site and the board in terms of the buffering in the rear, the architecture of the building, which we knew was important to the board. And, those would all obviously still be in play. And, if we had to start over, I just think it would be unfortunate, but, I do understand that this is, somewhat of an unusual request at the same time. So I do think the 6 months with a tight leash in terms of, holding our feet to the fire that we have to get this done is maybe a fair way to just try to give us an opportunity to do this.
And you're saying then in 6 months, construction doesn't commence, then you guys would not come back here for another extension?
The feel that I'm getting from the board is you're struggling with giving us this extension beyond the 3 years. So coming back would be, I think, from what I'm feeling, would not be worthwhile, and that you're basically telling us that this is it if you're going to grant it. So that's what I'm feeling, and that's what I'm hoping we can get started.
Elise, is that something could be memorialized in the resolution that?
Your final extension, sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I have no more questions.
Richard LaRufo.
Yeah, my concern, I was on the board from the original.
I remember, yes,
application,
I remember.
And the plan is excellent. I have no problem with the plan, what you want to build. But again, following what was said before, part of the concern is the old auto parts building is dilapidated. People are parking right in front of it right now. I don't know who's using that for parking, if it's a building next door or Sparta Auto Parts is storing cars there. But people have access to that part of the site. And Schedules are great, but schedules, what in the DOT permit prevents you from starting construction?
So, typically, you would start construction when you have all your outside agency permits. So what we discussed with Mr. Simmons and Mr. Keynes was that in order to get going, what we would do is, so let me back up. The concern that was brought up was, from the professionals were, do you think there'll be any issues renewing your DOT permit? Okay, so we had a conference call with our traffic expert and Mr. Simmons to discuss that. And our traffic expert, in speaking with the DOT, believes that there's no issues getting our permit again because the access will remain the same. It complies with all DOT requirements. There's no waivers being requested in terms of distance or driveway widths or anything of those along those lines. So what we discussed was starting everything that did not result in the DOT right-of-way, getting going, and then once we were further along with construction, we should have that DOT permit, and we should be able to do the work in the right-of-way and complete the construction. So to your point, the goal is to start everything that doesn't involve the DOT right-of-way.
So you're saying you can theoretically start?
That's our goal, in working with Mr. Simmons' office on that, yes. And all the plans have been completed, like all the resolution compliance plans have been done, revising them pursuant to the board's comments in the resolution, as well as the outside, as well as, Mr. Simmons' review letter as well. So all that's been done.
Oh, yeah, again, my concern is if it's your property and people are parking their cars there daily.
So I'm not aware of that, but if the board, it's a valid concern, and if the board wants that to be a condition of the extension as well, that we have to abate that issue, then that's fine. I wasn't aware of that, but, and the client didn't bring to my attention that they've received any notices or anything on that issue, but if that's going on, we will abate that. That's fine.
Yeah. And again, my concern is also that it sounds like everything is proceeding as normal, but the bureaucracy is holding it up. That's what it sounds like. You need a rubber stamp from DOT, something that everybody else thinks is running smoothly, to get the permit.
The only good news I could report on that is that our traffic engineer indicated that they got the approval the first time, and then nothing's changed, and none of the regs have changed. So they should be able to get that again. And we can work out a way where we could start construction, get it going, and hopefully, once the DOT permit is issued, we can finish the work in the right-of-way. Obviously, we couldn't get a CO until that was all completed. We also talked with Mr. Simmons about, and he felt this was important, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he also felt it was critical, and he was part of the original application, as were you and the chairman. I think some of you were also, yeah, okay. I recognize the faces. You guys were all part of it. And remember, we were here at 3 or 4 meetings. We went through a lot. It was very comprehensive. That working on the buffering to the neighbors, getting that going to start, and also, making sure that they were screened from the construction was important. And we agreed that we would work on that as part of the construction schedule.
Okay.
So again, we felt it was a fair compromise, knowing that the request was unusual. So thank you.
Mr. Toval, it just sounds like the same reasons for all the other extensions, and it just seems never to get done. What you're mentioning now in this 11th hour because of this potential 4th extension, it just seems the same information from the last 2-3 times.
Listen.
Put COVID out of the system,
Sure.
but the last 2, it just seems to be the same thing. We're going to try to get it done in 6 months. We're going to try this,
Okay.
we're going to try that. It never changes.
Mr. Chairman, I can't dispute anything you're saying. So I'm trying to provide a path to get it done within 6 months. The board feels that they want to give us that opportunity. We would love to. If you don't feel that way based on the comment, I'm not here to argue with you on your feelings because they're valid. Okay, so I'm not going to argue with you on those. However, I do think the path that we've discussed and the path that we reached out to Mr. Simmons and Mr. Keynes to talk about it, to see if we could get it done sooner rather than later. I think the compromise was a fair one. And like I said, I won't be back if we have not vested our rights within that 6-month period. You won't see me here for an extension. Maybe for some other project, but not for an extension, on this. So, but I understand I understand your comments.
All right, thank you. Marissa, you can call the rest of the board members, please.
Michael Leondi,
So in the event your DOT permit that's expired is not renewed or reissued, what's Plan B? Is there still a project?
We discussed it. We discussed that Mr. Keynes and Mr. Simmons asked the exact same question, Mr. Leondi, that you're asking. So what we discussed was getting what's called a comfort letter from DOT. So what DOT will do is, and our traffic engineer went through this, what they will do is they will issue you a letter that we intend to approve this application so that the building department and the engineering department have comfort that we are going to get the approval, and that they will issue a permit once they calculate the bonds, the fees, and any of the technical items. So we should know within the next 30 to 60 days if we should have that comfort letter. So if we don't get that, we won't start construction until we get that, so that you don't have the concern or the dilemma that you just brought up. So we did discuss that issue.
Great, thanks. But in the event that you don't get that letter and that you don't get a DOT
So
approval,
I think that based on our discussions with our professionals, that seems unlikely, because that would be denying us access on the state highway, which I don't know if they're able to do. But let's go through your worst case scenario. If that were to happen, then that would be analogous to a material change to the site plan based on an outside agency determination. So I'm sure you've heard this before as a board. If we come here and get an approval, if an applicant gets an approval and then the county or DOT imposes some design that materially alters the site plan, you have to come back and amend your site plan. So if that were to happen, then Mr. Chairman, we'd have to come back and represent the application. If what we think is going to happen, which is they're going to issue the comfort letter and then we'd be able to start, then we should be okay.
great, thanks.
Sure.
Richard Rohrbacher,
We have the 7-Eleven currently. We also have an additional 7-Eleven in town. And I'm just a little confused as to why there are two.
I don't know. This wouldn't be adding another one. This is just,
I know,
Yeah.
it's going to revamp and
yeah.
expand the current
Right, it would be
facility.
it would make the current one a lot nicer and also add the fueling to it as well, which is now, part of their business model for the most part.
That's, okay, I don't have any questions at this.
Yeah, but I can't answer the business side
Yeah,
questions
I-
for you.
It just bothers me.
Okay, I understand.
Lana Teneri,
Just one question. So this is this is the fourth
Yep.
one. So can you just briefly explain the reason why we gave the third one? What was what you did originally for when you just came today?
Yeah, I mean, I think the chairman was accurate in what he said. In what he said before was when I was here the last times, I indicated that once COVID hit, the market, a lot of these stores, a lot of these retailers, kind of put a pause on their expansion and their construction, and that put a pause on it for a couple years, and that was through 2022, I believe, or so. And then when we came back, I also explained that there was the acquisition of Speedway, so 7-Eleven and Speedway merged, and they were trying to figure out how they were going to integrate those two products. So that was the delay. And I know that, as the chairman indicated, and he's correct, that I repeated that twice, I think on the second and third extension. That's why coming into this one, I knew that the board would, take this one a little bit differently, because you're only, it's unusual to have another one. And that's why I said, look, if you're only going to work with us for 6 months, I understand. If we want to put strict conditions on, usually you don't have any conditions on an extension. It's just you get your 1 year and you move on. But if the board wants to impose conditions like we've talked about at this meeting, of us, reporting back to your professionals on where we are and only giving us 6 months and having a condition that we don't come back if we don't start construction, then that's acceptable to us because we know that we're making, one last plea for us to get to move forward with this project. That I know it's been a long time, but we worked really hard with the board on. I mean, those were 3 or 4 very comprehensive meetings. We worked with the neighbors on the landscaping buffer requirements and the trees that were going to go there, the fence that was going to go there, the grading of the site, the berm. We worked diligently on the architecture with your planner at the time. So there was a lot of hard work involved. I mean, so granted, I know we're asking for something that's unusual, but I feel like it would be a shame for that, that to give us at least 6 more months to try to make all that time and effort hopefully come to fruition. And if we don't start in 6 months, then shame on us, and we understand the consequences of that.
I have no further questions.
Corey Stoner, our board engineer, would you like to make any comments before we take a vote on an extension of time, please?
Not familiar with the specifics of the layout.
It's fine.
What the actual specifics of the extension is review. The 6-month extension, you're talking about your scheduling and stating that you're scheduling to get to the end of the 6 months to start construction.
That's correct.
Because they were concerned that you're not changing the phasing of construction. It's still going to be the full construction. You're not going to be phasing this anything different than what was approved by the board.
He was very specific about that when we talked about it on the phone. Yes.
And in the 6 months, you're going to have everything in line, except you think you'll have the comfort level from the DOT. That's what you're finally splitting for a zoning permit application and construction.
Correct. I think what we would do is, and I think we actually did do this, we submitted our building permit application already for review quite some time ago. So even that's been, those construction drawings have even been done also.
Probably didn't go through the zoning permit process.
Right, because they're just the review, because under the administrative code, you can submit for a pre-review before. So we actually have all of our CDs, our construction drawings done also. That's how close to the finish line we are on this. But yes, everything, the way you just explained it is exactly how we talked about it with Mr. Simmons and Mr. Keynes.
So within that 6 months, there'll be a zoning permit application. The way we do it now is review when it gets to the zoning permit.
Yeah.
Stage and it comes able to do its resolution compliance and be able to state all these items are submitted with the DOT, without having the DOT approval, say the DOT, some kind of letter from the DOT, so it's, that we can move to the zoning permit.
Okay. Yep.
6 months, you're gonna have to apply and you're gonna break ground, or you're gonna have the zoning permit, construction permit applied within 6 months. What do we look at the end of 6 months?
We have to break ground. I would say that although I've had debates with colleagues over what vests your rights, I don't think it's very clear. I wish that's one of the things the legislature would clarify. But I do think the conservative approach would be, when I would always tell clients, is breaking ground, not just even demo, but actually starting construction pursuant to your permit is what vests your rights. And that's what we would have to do in that 6 months. I don't know if council wants to weigh in on that, but that would be that to be fair to the town and be, tell the applicant what I think the law is, I would say you'd have to break ground in furtherance of the permit. No, because the discussion I have, this is more of an esoteric discussion, but you could do that without an approval. We wouldn't need a site plan approval to demo the building. So I think the purpose of the land use law on this issue is to actually do something in furtherance of the approval that you got and not just things that you could do otherwise.
Just for my education
Sure.
here a little bit, will the existing store be closed during construction?
Yes. Yeah, I think they might try to keep it open maybe during the initial part of construction to the extent they could, but it would be closed for the vast majority of the construction process.
All right, thank you, Corey. Any other questions or comments from the board members before I ask for a motion to approve the extension of time?
Just one on this DOT reapproval. You're saying you hope to get the letter of intent to approve it or
Yeah.
extend it in 30 to 60 days.
It's called the comfort letter, as my traffic engineer explains it, where the DOT on their letterhead will issue you a letter that they will issue a permit as part of they've received your application, they've reviewed it, they will issue a permit. It's just they have to finalize the bonding and some of the technical fees and so on and so forth. But that letter will indicate to us as well as the town that we will get that driveway on the state highway.
And do you need that within 30 to 60 days in order to start construction by July?
We would need that by July in order to do it. By that time, I think we would need it by then in order to do
As
it.
soon as you get that letter, the comfort
Right,
letter,
we
you
would
can
work,
start?
we would work in concert with that. We would pursue that letter, but also make sure that all of our permits with the municipality are finalized as well.
Okay, I'm just wondering what's going to.
We would not start construction without that letter, if that's what you're asking me.
Okay, so you need that letter, and you're hoping to get a letter from this
I think that's, I think, that-
bureaucracy in 30 to 60
no,
days.
but it's not it's not the full permit. So our traffic engineer has indicated that we should be able to get that. But Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Simmons wanted us to get that letter before issuing the zoning permit that you've been discussing.
David will issue a letter, compliance, resolution compliance, and all the conditions have been addressed. Sounds like that one, you might not have the permit at hand, but he can comment, at least he has a letter, or comfort letter, or whatever you want to call it. At least we have that, and everything else is in line. If he gets that letter, then it can get the zoning permits and then construction.
So that's the key date, getting that comfort letter.
Sounds like that's the key date, though. Him allowing him to, not him.
Yeah.
To submit.
But you're saying 30 to 60 days, but it may not be until July.
I obviously can't control, but that's to the question that Mr. Leondi asked us earlier. If I don't have that by the time the extension's over, then we're not going to start construction.
Okay.
So that's why I think all the conditions that we've discussed are fair. And, if you won't see me back here if we don't start construction by that time. And I would appreciate the board giving us one, even though I know you don't have to, I would appreciate the board giving us one last opportunity to try this.
Just one last question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So if that KKR or Bain Capital or Circle K, whomever, comes into the picture, they're all in negotiations now, and buys out 7-Eleven or merges something, the operations, whatever, how will that affect this project going forward?
I have no, I can't give you I have no idea, Mr. Chairman. I have no idea. All I can say is, I've pleaded the case. We've really tried with our project team to work with your team here to try to, get this on board. I don't know about any of those factors that might come into play. Those are way above my pay grade. That's why in having this conversation with, what's that, Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry.
I'm surprised your client didn't inform you on all of this in terms of these companies that are.
They've been authorized because I wouldn't be here if they weren't authorized to move forward. They wouldn't have told me to come here, and they wouldn't have their professionals engaged, have a full schedule ready to go, be working with DOT and DEP if they were not engaged to move forward. And if we don't start construction by that date, if the board were to give it to us, and also the maintenance issue, if you want to make that a stipulation, that's a very reasonable request. You won't see me back here on this issue. That's all I can say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tovall.
No, thank you.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the extension of time, 6 months with the following conditions. Mike, if you're so kind.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to have the board attorney draft a resolution approving 6-month extension of time for application number 6-19 for 7-Eleven at block 2016, lots 1, 12, and 13 at 33 Pinecone Lane and 164 Woodport Road, with conditions that an outstanding approval schedule be furnished and some site cleanup and maintenance be performed at the vacant auto parts store and adjacent parcel of land, based on all testimony here tonight.
Maybe we could include what Corey Stoner said in terms of his comments too, Mike, if you accept that addendum.
Agree.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Can I make an amendment to
Excuse me,
that? Amendment, I guess, another condition?
you have another condition?
Yeah, if there be no further extensions.
Oh, all right.
Well, you could also put as a condition anything that I've represented
Yeah.
before you as well.
You accept that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
Yes.
Michael Joseph,
Yes.
Richard LaRupa,
Yes.
Michael Leondi,
Yes.
Richard Rohrbacher,
Yes.
Len Antoneri,
Yes.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
No. But congratulations, your extension's been approved without my yes vote.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you.
An application 12-24 Sussex County Charter School Tech for D variance relief. Please come forward. If you're so kind to speak directly and clearly into the microphone, since it's a requirement for the state and also for our board secretary to hear all the testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm Richard Valenti of the law firm of Morris, Downing, and Sheridan Newton, here on the continued application of the Sussex Charter School for Technology. When we last appeared, there were a number of questions that were raised by the board, and we're here tonight to hopefully address those questions as well as comments made by members of the audience. First, I want to thank Marissa and the board members who were able to have make seven members eligible to vote on what is a D variance. Appreciate the time and effort that was involved in that.
And yes, you know, Mr. Valenti, of course, but for the public, since it's a D variance, you'll need 5 affirmative votes, and if it's approved, it'll be tied to the land in perpetuity, the variance.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're aware. Thank you. If I may take 2 minutes to summarize the application to date, as well as describe the changes we've made to the application. Thank you. The Sussex Charter School for Technology is a public school that is a tuition-free public school. It's called a school of choice because people are not required to attend the school, but they are given the option to attend the school. It is available to members of residents of Sparta Township on a priority basis. They have first priority to attend the school. The use itself, the school itself, excuse me, is a permitted use in the zone, and pursuant to state law, schools are inherently beneficial uses when it comes to a D variance application. The sign itself, the D variance is created because of the sign, because of its placement within one of your historical districts. As you heard the testimony of our planner, the sign improves the messaging by the school and therefore improves the effectiveness of the school. The fact that messaging is improved is witnessed by the fact that within Sparta Township itself, you have digital signs at Rev Brown, you have digital signs at the Sparta Middle School, you have digital signs here at the municipal building, there are digital signs at Votech, and there are also a digital sign at the ambulance building. The sign helps the school in several areas. First, with respect to emergency preparedness, if, for example, there's a lockdown or there is a gas leak or a fire at the school, the sign can make that announcement with respect to passerbys as well as families involved. The sign can quickly communicate information of events that the school is having. And also importantly, as we discussed, as one of the conditions, if the sign were to be permitted, would that Sparta Township itself could use the sign for purposes of making announcements, whether it be emergency announcements or community event announcements. But those would be the only two entities that would use the sign. It's not a billboard. It's not something that's intended for commercial benefit for the school. The sign could also direct people to the school's website, which again enhances the messaging of the school. The sign itself would be located approximately 1/10 of a mile to the Hardiston Township border. So the folks who are literally entering Sparta Township would have this opportunity to review the sign not only for school events, but also for the township purposes as well. Since our last meeting, we did make several changes to the sign. I can review them with you. We presented to the board two options for the sign. These options accomplished the following with respect to the sign. It reduced the total dimensions of the sign. Originally, the sign was proposed to be 9.33 feet high. It has been reduced to 7 feet. The total area of the sign has been reduced from 48 square feet to 27 square feet. The LED portion of the sign is now 3 by 6. So it's been reduced from 24 square feet to 18 square feet. We've presented two options for the board to consider. One, with respect to the wording, Sussex Charter School for Technology would be lit up. Another would be simply on a wooden board that would be carved. And each of those two options have been presented to the board as part of the update of the application. The bottom of the sign, which used to be a post of 3 feet in height, has been changed now to be a 24-inch high stone-style base, which is hopefully keeping better with the historical nature of the community. There are also conditions that the applicant is willing to impose for the sign, and I'll review those conditions as well, rather than go through the testimony. The LED portion of the sign will be lit only during daylight hours except for emergency announcements. Sparta Township will have the ability to place community announcements and emergency announcements on the sign. The sign will not be animated or flashing, and messages on the sign will be static. There will be no scrolling of messages nor videos on the sign. The message on the sign will have a minimum duration of 5 to 8 seconds and will not fade out or fade in. No more than one message will occur on the sign at any one time. Messages will be limited to message by the charter school or the Township of Sparta. And as I said, no other third party will have the right to make announcements on the sign. The sign brightness will be limited to 5,000 nits during daylight, but will be controlled remotely, and the brightness of the sign can be adjusted as needed. During the course of the testimony last time, we showed to the board several exhibits regarding the historic issues with respect to the sign. As you may recall, we produced photographs of neighboring homes and also the neighboring warehouse for Downing's Furniture. In fact, the home across the street, which is the yellow home across the street, is not historical. The house that is 2 lots removed from us, again, with the photos we've shown, it is made totally of brick, and it's not historical. The warehouse for Downing's Furniture, also in the historic district, is simply not, it's a pole barn warehouse, it's not historical. So we see that there is a number of features of properties within the area that are not historical in nature. There was also discussion at last meeting about the traffic impact of the sign, and we have here this evening our traffic engineer and our traffic consultant who will testify with respect to his research regarding accidents in the area, and also importantly, the benefits of a digital sign with respect to the traffic concerns. With that, with the board's permission, I'd like to introduce Mr. Keller as our traffic consultant on behalf of the applicant.
Please do.
Mr. Keller, can you please come forward? Yes, please.
Elise, would you like to swear him in too, if you're so kind?
Sure. Can you remain standing?
Yes.
Raise your right hand. The testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Can you state your full name, spell your last name for the record, and provide your business address?
Certainly. Eric Keller, Keller, Vice President with Bowman Consulting Group, business address 6 Campus Drive, Suite 302, Parsippany, New Jersey.
Mr. Valenti, would you like to provide the educational and professional experience of Mr. Keller, please?
I will, thank you. Mr. Keller, would you describe for the board your educational background?
Certainly. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I attended a master's program at the University of Maryland. I've been a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey since 1987. I have testified before numerous boards throughout the state. I believe I've testified before the planning board in Sparta. I have not had the pleasure of being before this board, but I have testified before numerous other boards. I also do represent a number of municipalities over the years. And also, while my office is in Parsippany, I'm an 18-year resident of Andover Township and a 35-year resident of Sussex County. So I know the area pretty well.
And your
I
license-
drive through your fine community every day trying to get to work down Route 15.
And your license is current and in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Keller?
No questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Elise. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Please
Thank-
proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Keller, did you prepare a report dated November 8, 2024?
I did.
And would you describe for the board the efforts you undertook in preparing that report and your conclusions in that report?
Certainly. We've been working with the school for a couple of years on traffic and access concerns that the school had. And we became re-engaged when the school filed for this sign application for their property on Route 94. So our original focus, we collected traffic data, number of days, times a day of the school driveway to gather information on how much traffic is coming in and out of the school. That's on the first page of my report. I won't go through all the days. You can clearly see that for yourself. But what we found is that the driveway is fairly active. There's 174 trips in and out in the morning peak hour on average. And in the afternoon, during the school departure time, not necessarily the peak hour of the highway, there are 112 vehicles. What is a little bit more interesting is that we also looked at automobile traffic as well as school bus and other large vehicle traffic. In the morning peak hour, that larger vehicle traffic only accounts for 25% of the traffic, but during the school departure, it's almost 50% of the site-generated traffic. We also looked at traffic volumes along Route 94 that were published by the DOT. We only found two, one in 2015 and one in the summer of 2018. While the summer counts were probably when the fair was going on and might be higher than a normal summertime traffic, it's also not relevant to the school as school's not in session at that time. So we used the September counts for the purposes of assessing what the operations of the school driveway would be. And this is all by way of kind of background of the reasons for our justification for the sign, the need for the sign. And I'm going to get into a little bit more detailed stuff in a moment.
Excuse me, Mr. Keller, you
Yeah.
submitted your report to the board secretary?
Yes.
Does anyone have the report in front of them?
Everything was sent when I sent over.
I received it. You don't have a copy of that?
But the board members didn't get any.
Everything was sent to everybody
yeah.
when they sent the,
February 7th.
No,
November
it-
8th.
it was-
November 8th
And it
of
was- It
2024.
was sent by email in December to the board's professionals and to Ms. Favaro.
Does any board member have it from November 8th? Whatever.
I don't have it with me, but I remember seeing parts of it. Or
I don't remember any of it, to be honest with you.
I know Mr. Stoner's office has it because he had it in his review memo.
Oh, yeah, I know, but the board members usually like to see that too, Mr. Keller.
sent-
Yes, I understand that,
So-
Mr. Chairman, yeah.
Sent everything over.
And our vice chairman's checking all the emails now, if you're so kind, to give us a minute or two.
Could be a while.
Certainly.
I'll take you.
keep going.
Okay, all right. I'll be a little bit more thorough since you're not
Since
looking.
we don't have it in front of us.
You're not looking at it. So just to go back for a minute, Mr. Chairman, the counts that were done were Wednesday, January 26th of 2022, from 6:45 to 7:45, which represents the arrival time for the school, and from 2 to 3 p.m., which is the departure time. We also did counts on Monday, January 31st of 2022, same time periods. Tuesday, February 1st, 2022, again, same time periods. And Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, same time periods. So we have 4 days of count information, which we then summarized and averaged, which goes to the traffic volumes I testified to previously. And that is also where we came up with the number of buses and larger vehicles that enter and exit the site as part of the overall traffic going to and from Route 94 and the school. So we, as traffic engineers, we use a software program called Highway Capacity Software that allows us to evaluate the operations of a signal, or, I'm sorry, of an intersection. There's no signal, it's a stop sign controlled. So when we do that analysis, the analysis looks at the operations of the side street, because that's impeded. You have to stop at a stop sign, look in both directions, and before you can proceed. We also look at the operations of the left turn in from southbound 94 into the site, because that has to wait for a gap in the northbound flow of traffic on Route 94. That is what we measure. And it's based on average delay, how much time a vehicle would be expected to have to wait to make a movement. So during the morning peak hour, when we have higher volumes, what we found is that the site driveway itself, leaving the site, operates at level of service E with 40.1 seconds of average delay, which is really a function of how much traffic is on Route 94. I don't need to tell any of you here that Route 94 is a busy road, and I listened to parts of the testimony from the September meeting. Somebody asked the question about what's the speed limit. It's 40 miles an hour. If you're doing 40 miles an hour on Route 94, you probably have somebody right on your tail. So that's what it's posted, not saying that that's what people do. And not that it's legal to be going faster than 40. Levels of service are rated from A, meaning the least amount of delay, to level of service F, which is an excessive amount of delay. Level of service E for a side street or a driveway in this case to a major arterial is not uncommon. Even in Sussex County, you're going to find, points where it takes longer to get out onto a road, which is especially that kind of a major road carrying traffic through Sussex County. During the afternoon, with the school departure time, when the volumes on 94 are a little less, what we found is that the site driveway, the school driveway, operates at level of service C with just under 23 seconds of average delay, which is acceptable. The left turns, which are only waiting for gaps in the northbound traffic, both operates at level service A during both of the peak hours, which means that there's very little delay, very little queuing of vehicles waiting to turn into the school driveway. So those are all good levels of service for this particular location. Now, the other thing that we did, and we wanted to assess, because this is an unsignalized location, is what is the crash history in this stretch of road? So we filed an open request with the Township Police Department. They were very prompt in their response in providing us with the data, which is in the report, which unfortunately most of you don't have. And when you do get it, the personal information, because they gave me the whole document, I redacted, people's names and things like that, because I didn't think that was relevant. It's not to me from analyzing it, but that's where you look at it, it's all blacked out. What we found, what the data that they provided, and this was, we asked for crash records from January 1st of 2021 to September 30th of 2024. So 1, 2, 3, almost 4 years worth of time. And in that 4-year period, in total, there were only 15 accidents within the stretch of 94 from the Hopkins Corner, Old Prospect School Road intersection, that offset intersection, to a point about 500 feet south of the school driveway. So it's a fairly good stretch of road. 11 of those accidents occurred at the intersection of Hopkins Corner and Old Prospect School Road. The only accident that occurred at the school driveway was a rear end accident. And reading through the police officer's summary, it was the following driver wasn't paying attention and ran into the car in front of them. Had nothing to do with the school driveway at all. So from that data that we obtained from the police department, there is no pattern of accidents in this area related to the school. I'm not going to talk about the municipal intersection just up the road. That's not part of this application. But at the school itself, there's nothing directly related to the operations of the school. Not to say that there aren't points at which accidents occur or near misses occur, but there is no pattern that we as traffic engineers look at and say, oh, we need to do something about that. I will note that there are standard yellow warning signs in each direction saying that there's a school driveway 500 feet ahead. I think the average driver doesn't really understand how far 500 feet is when they're driving at 45 or maybe 50 miles an hour. But there are warning signs. There is no reduced speed for the school on the stretch of 94 like there are in many other school areas where they post that. There is none for this. And I've driven this stretch of 94 many, many times. And in the, 4 years I've been working for the school, I go by there and I'm like, oh, school's coming up. That sign that they have out there today is really, really difficult to find. And I'm looking for it. So I think this particular sign is situated in a better location. Yes, it requires a design waiver for its setback to the right-of-way. But from a traffic engineering perspective, and I've testified, I'm not testifying as a planner tonight, but I've testified numerous times as a planner for setback variances, design waivers, whatever. In this case, I think it's a design waiver. The placement of a sign needs to be, well, there's standards that set where it should go. In this particular case, having it further off the road defeats the purpose. It doesn't provide the notice. The point of this sign, as Mr. Dunn testified to back in September, is the purpose of planning is safe transportation routes. This sign is intended to better identify the school, plus provide public information announcements. But this is something that will provide a better marker as to, here's the Sussex County Charter School for Technology. Here's where you enter and exit. Yes, if you're a regular, you pretty much know where it is, but it is helpful for the general public, the motoring public, to see, oh, there's a school here. Maybe I should slow down. Maybe I should be a little bit more aware of things. So I think there's a lot of benefits to placing this sign in this location and providing the type of sign that they have with the digital sign. And as the testimony has been given, is that the existing sign would be removed. So there would still only be one sign. There are still some other design waivers which have been discussed, but I think the sign size is appropriate. The other thing with the size of the sign is that it goes to letter height. Having a sign with insufficient letter height being able to be placed on there defeats the purpose, because then you're trying to, especially as you get older, it's harder to read. And having the size of the sign be able to accommodate larger letters makes it easier for people to read it and go, oh, I can see what that is, and not slow down, not create a traffic hazard. And that's what we're trying to do with this sign. So I think that's everything. Happy to answer any questions the board may
We'll
have.
let you finish, Ms. Valenti, you know how we operate, to finish your whole presentation, then we'll go to our board engineer and then our board at the conclusion of your testimony.
Thank you. Eric, one other question.
Yeah.
Would a NJDOT permit be required for this type of sign?
No, this is not an off-premise sign. It is a sign serving the school, which is there. I researched the applicable code, which is NJAC 16:41C. And it's clear in subsection 1.2C that this sign does not require the issuance of a permit because it is an on-premise sign and it is a public identification sign. And that's further supported in 16:41C-9.1, where it states that a sign that meets the definition of an on-premise sign shall not require the issuance of an outdoor advertising permit. Those type of DOT permits are generally, typically for what I'll call a billboard sign.
That's all the questions I had for Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. You have anyone else, Mr. Valenti, that?
Only if there were questions regarding aspects of the sign. We have Mr. Field here from KC Signs, which is the supplier of the sign. He did not testify previously, but if there are questions related to
Okay,
the
we'll see
composition
when we
of the
get to
sign.
the board members' questions. Corey, would you like to give your report, please?
Report February 10th, 2025, regarding the new items submitted in support of the application. Report,
I won't hold it against you, Corey. It's okay. I've been called worse.
it is correct, there is they pulled out the different, waivers and variances are needed. You need a use variance because it's a post digital sign without a permitted use of the zone. We're not meeting the front yard setback requirement, but it's supposed to be 42 from the right of line, it's only 17 feet. I think that's all the aspects of my report. I talked about, I kind of reiterated some of the items. I think one of the time I was talking about the height of the sign change. The sign change, the area of the sign went from 48 square feet to 27 square feet. Size of the sign, it used to be too large. Now it's under the 30 square feet, so that waiver went away. They did provide two different options that the board can discuss. Two different options, and I think it's too much other than the fact that if you get into the options, the first option will have Sussex Charter School Technology in the top of the sign will be internally lit. The second option would be installed car sign portion. So other than that, I think the sign would, for the most part, is very similar. About the traffic provided by Eric, I have no issues with the comment on the traffic volumes. The level of service that was found in the report is, in my opinion, is expected. Leaving aside the level of service in the morning with the traffic the night before, and the fact that left turns into and out of the site with that traffic runs, it's not surprising. It is. I would expect those results in any site. The waivers that are required to sign, the signs that we report to the 18-5.3M of the code, there's a couple of items. No sign should be fitted by means of flashing or intermittent illumination. That's the LED sign. The turn lit signs discouraged in a historic zone. That's another. I call that a waiver. It says discouraged. It doesn't say prohibited, but I listed that as a waiver. And one freestanding sign is permitted with a maximum strength of 12 square feet and maximum height of 8 feet. This sign is larger than 12 square feet. It is less than the maximum height now, so that part of the waiver goes with the size area. And number 9, my report, the last page of the report, I did make a comment about the DOT outdoor advertising permit to be reported. I was incorrect. It's not that permit only because you're advertising a business.
All right.
Through if the board would decide to do this, provided so that we can formalize the actual.
All right. All right, thank you, Corey. And Marissa, if you can call on the board members now, and each board member, please state what option you prefer, option 1 or option 2, in regards to the sign. Go ahead, Marissa.
Jennifer Panaha,
Option 2?
Michael Josovic.
We could ask questions?
Yes, and question 2, Mike.
Yeah. So the question I have is, let me start off. You're testifying that the sign will only be used for the school purposes as well as for the Sparta, I guess, the good of Sparta, like the like community announcements, emergency alerts, et cetera, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now we know that variances go with the land. That condition would hold, right? If the school ever, is the school leasing the land? Is that it?
The school owns 2 of the parcels where the main buildings are located.
Okay.
The one parcel that has, there used to be, I think it was the furniture, or closer to the street, the blue building, it currently leases that.
Where the sign is going to be, it's going to be on leased land, correct?
Correct. We have the owner's permission.
So you have the owner's permission. So if for whatever reason the lease is not renewed, right, the variance goes with the land.
In the school.
Well, it could be related to the school.
But as long as we condition it related to school or some kind of public works, then we're fine.
Yes.
Okay. What I'm trying to prevent is the billboard situation,
Agreed.
like the advertising.
We
Okay.
understand that condition that will only be used for the school or the township.
Right.
Would run with the land.
Okay, perfect.
And that could absolutely be a condition and is normal.
Great, perfect. That and then option 2. No further questions.
Thank you, Mike.
Richard LaRufa.
Just 2 questions, but they're both related to the operations of the school. Do I understand that the sign will only be lit during daylight hours?
That is correct.
Is there any time when there's a function at the school after dark? Because I tend to agree. I drove by there during the day and during the night, and it's very difficult seeing the driveway. I agree with your comments there, but
Noreen?
I don't want to make it so restrictive. If the school has a function at night, then I think a lighted part of the driveway entrance is good.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
You have to come
Noreen,
forward,
come
please.
forward.
Come forward
She
a
has
bit.
previously testified at our last hearing.
I was going to say, can she acknowledge that she remains under oath from the prior hearing, and then just restate your name and your position?
Noreen Lazarek, Superintendent of the Sussex Charter School.
And you
And do you-
acknowledge that you remain under oath from the prior hearing?
Yes, I acknowledge.
Thank you.
We have a couple dances at night. I'd say probably 4 times a year. We're there at night.
We previously talked about limiting any nighttime use to emergency situations.
We do hire a Sparta police officer to direct traffic when we have dances and when we have like maybe one other event at night. Because I was always worried about like it being dark out there.
Yeah. Okay. So then you have no problem with it being dark, the sign being,
Not if we're going to get approval. No problem.
Well, I
okay.
guess the question is, would you like to be able to, with respect to those evening events, be able to have the sign lit,
Yes,
but it's not a necessity?
correct.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. Are there other activities? I mean, there are sporting events or anything at on the property, or just these occasional dances?
We just have, all of our events are really away because we don't have regulation field. We have a few basketball games, but they're right after school. So our other sporting events are always away.
Okay.
And we have graduation up at Sussex Tech, so.
Okay. And the only other thing is there's no concern about the definition of daylight hours when the school's operation, either dark winter mornings or dark evening, after school, the sun goes down early. Is the ordinance set up in terms of sunset time to the sunset or sunrise? Because daylight hours is kind of vague at these times of days for schools.
Normally it's kind of tied to an hour situation rather than daytime.
I wasn't here in September, but what I heard on the testimony was.
Sorry, can you please speak a little closer, everyone,
Sorry.
to the microphones? Thank you.
Was that it was 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Because Mr. Stoner had raised a point of, the sign, especially in the wintertime, it gets dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Well, that's the end of daylight, but, something could still be going on. If that is something that, I think that way it satisfies a specific time instead of, well, this month it's from, it starts at this time. It becomes an enforcement issue.
That was the previous testimony, I know, it's 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay, I didn't recall it. That was, the times were set. Okay, that's good. And the only other thing as far as the choice of the sign is if the sign is off, does the lighted version of the name of the school stay lit, or it all goes off and it all goes on at the same time?
Greg, can you come forward? Mr. Field is Representative KC Signs, which is the entity that will supply the sign. He has not testified previously, so we'll need to swear him in.
Sure. Can you raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your full name, spell your last name for the record, and provide your business address?
Gregory Feld, F-E-L-D. Business address is 142 Conchester Highway, Aston, Pennsylvania, 19014.
And you're a representative, you're the vice president, what's your position there?
I'm the permit expediter. I handle all the permit applications and variances.
Thank you.
Bell, did you hear the question that was just asked by the?
Sir, excuse me, you could use the other microphone there. Be a little easier if you'd been bending down since you're a little tall.
Thank you.
That works better.
The question is the lighted portion of the name of the school, is that lit independently of the message board? If the message board goes out, will the lighted portion still be lit, or is it all one, it's either all on or all off?
Actually, the message board and the header cabinet would run off a different electrical line. It's just the way the amps work and everything. But it can be set up, and generally when we set them up, there's a circuit and there's a breaker, and one would go off on with the other one. And it would look better that way anyway. They all work better that way. So generally, as kind of as a safety thing, because as by a default, if something goes wrong with the LED message board, there's the safety switch that keeps it, that just blacks it out. Because sometimes if a board goes out in other units, it can just start flashing and going crazy. So we want to make sure it's set that if there's something goes wrong with the electric, that LED board goes to black. And that's the LED circuit. The header cabinet's a different circuit, different voltage. But generally, yes, we hook them up and they would go on. When you switch them on, they both go on at once. When you switch them off, they both go off at once.
And is the light level of the name of the school different than the light level of the LED portion of it?
No, we keep them so that they're consistent.
Okay. In that case, I may prefer the option with the lighted name of the school, so at least we always have an entrance designation.
So that's option one, you're saying,
Option
Rich?
one, yes.
Marissa, you keeping track too of the options here from the board members?
I'm keeping tally.
You are, Liz? All right, thank you.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Talk about the lighting for option one, being internally lit sign. Can you explain what's happened with option two, with the lighting of that carved sign? Would be any of that on it?
Oh, option two is a version with a carved HDU, high density urethane wood. It looks like wood, just like a wood carved top. There would be no lighting on that, correct?
Spotlights, goosenecks or anything of that nature, so it'll be just a blank background, words, no lighting.
That's how it's proposed, yes.
What, three different options, layouts for the word.
I believe they settled on what is both the non-lit and the illuminated would be the same design and what is shown in that drawing in front of you. Yes.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Marissa.
Michael Leondi,
I don't have a preference. I tend to lean toward option one, but don't necessarily have a preference, and all my questions have been answered, so I'm good, thank you.
Richard Rohrbacher,
I have no questions, but option two.
Lana Teneri,
I just have one question that I think I brought up in the original hearing, and that's about like the school zone. And you mentioned the school driveway sign, driveway sign 500 feet. And then like 100 feet behind, that's the 40-mile-per-hour sign. And then your neighbors down the street have the 30-mile-per-hour school zone. So I just wondered, outside of this application, is the school interested in entertaining, trying to look forward to see what's feasible of incorporating a school zone in that location?
I mean, it's a process with the DOT to go through that. I mean,
Because you got already half the sign, right? You got the driveway, school driveway part, so.
yeah, I
just
mean, in
wondered
both
what was-
directions, there's 40-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. In that lower speed limit is further to the north as you go into Hardiston. You know, I'm not sure that, I leave it to the school if they want to.
I would prefer as many signs as we could saying there's a school. So I would pursue that, yes.
And I'm kind of like Mike, where I don't have a real personal preference here, but I think the point about potentially having after-school activities and evening activities makes more sense to have a lit sign, so option one for me.
We haven't gotten to the chairman yet.
I know, the tiebreaker.
Chairman Kenneth Lowry,
Option two. And no other questions at this. I'd just like to thank Mr. Valenti, your applicant and professionals.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Oh,
I only got to say an option. I didn't realize that we were doing questions too. My question is, I did notice with the school sign too, I completely agree. I mean, I drove around there a lot. I was there during morning rush hour. I made about 5 or 6 trips back and forth. And my personal experience is that it's kind of a harrowing little gully right where you are. I mean, the berm is very high and you've no shoulder, and the cars are typically going, about 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, was my experience. And I pulled in and out of your pool plenty of times, and it's dangerous. I mean, it's not a good sight. And I actually had to go back the third time to consciously look for the school sign, which is wedged in that lovely steep berm right there. And it's kind of an older sign. It's got that greenish yellow older tint to it. It's not even, I don't know, what we see now, what I have in front of the other public schools. So just a couple comments is, I would love to see you guys have a blinking sign, a sign that warns that the school during the morning and the afternoon when you're letting traffic out. If you don't have somebody there, I don't understand why you can't get a sign like Helen Morgan has. It's, it's petite, it's not, overwhelming, but it blinks the speed limit and it warns you that the school is coming in or getting out. I mean, that seems to me like that should be there at a minimum, because honestly, it was pretty harrowing to pull in and out of there. That's comment one. And to me, in a way, that almost serves you better than having your school sign right there, only because, again, I look at it and say, Eric, we were talking about the traffic, but I mean, in order for me to drive down that strip and keep up with traffic, which is, moving, let's say, between 45 and 50 miles an hour, and then for me to avert my eyes up on that hill to look at a sign where you would have it placed there, it's the blue church, right? It's the light blue. Yeah. It just seems like that's dangerous too. I can't imagine averting people's attention. Parents are pulling in, oh, there's that event. What, I'm trying to read that sign as I'm trying to slow down, and as I'm trying, I don't know. I just, I want you guys to get all the attention that you can possibly get, but I just don't see how putting a sign in that spot is going to be safe. I'm afraid people are going to get into an accident trying to see what the sign says.
I think
mean-
that's, and I drive by the Florence Bird School on Newton's Barter Road most days. And they have a digital sign. And that's why I talked about the size of the sign, so that you can have
Good size letters.
appropriate size letters. That Mr. Valenti also talked about, that the message would not change, would be there 5 to 8 seconds, which is consistent with when you drive down the highway, you see the digital billboards now. And that's the scroll time that they have for those.
Yeah.
So it is static, and it gives the person, as they're driving along, the time to see that. So, and it also, the placement of the sign where it is, which is a little closer to the right-of-way than what the ordinance permits, is so that your eye is only moving a little bit, which, I mean, your eyes should not be focused directly on what's in front of you. It should vary to the sides, especially in the area of a school driveway. You want to see if there's somebody coming out, so that you can anticipate if somebody is not paying attention and doesn't stop, or, to maybe slow down a little bit and be aware of what is coming in from the sides. There are other driveways along that stretch of 94 too. And all of those things go to why we're placing the sign where we are, the size of the sign. And I think in general, we're not over signing the area, which creates other issues. I mean, if the DOT would permit that school ahead sign with a flashing and changing the speed limit, which we would like, school is willing to seek, but we wouldn't want it as a condition of any approval, because as you heard from the last attorney, dealing with DOT, and I do on a regular basis, is, that's why I have so much gray hair and I'm not that old. Only kidding. But, they may not approve it. And if that was sought, it really would be in place of the existing diamond sign that says school driveway and the plaque underneath it that says 500 feet. The DOT is not going to allow you to keep that sign and then put in a reduced speed sign for the school. So the school would be willing to seek that out from the DOT, but there's no guarantees with that department.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kell.
You're welcome.
More questions? Thank you.
Any other testimony, Mr. Valenti, or you're completed?
Not at this time.
So I'll open it now to the public. If anyone in the public has any questions or comments in regards to this application, please come forward. State your name and address and all that good stuff. Jenny?
Sure, Jenny Derricks, Tap into Sparta. Do you need me to swear in or anything? I'm just gonna ask a question. Yeah. What color are the lights on the signs?
Get our sign guy to come up. I have no idea.
On the, pardon me, on the digital sign, it is a full color board, so they can use any colors that they see fit. I think generally it was going to stay within the Sussex Charter color scheme, but it's capable, it is a full color board.
Okay, may I make a statement without being, do I need to be sworn in? Okay,
You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Can you state your full name, spell your last name, provide your business address?
Sure, Jennifer Derricks, Dericks, 27 Mount Pleasant Road. The two schools referenced in your testimony earlier, the high school and the middle school, are limited to single color. The high school is white only. They were the first, as far as I can recall, the first LED sign that was permitted in the township. And they were strictly prohibited to have anything other than white. The middle school sign is red, has red lettering only, and is mounted on the school building itself. So full color would be quite a departure from the two other schools that are mentioned here. Thank you.
Would you like to respond to that, please? The applicant,
How you change your colors, I don't know.
would you be open
I
to?
think the intent is to match the color of the buildings, but you can speak to that. The buildings have a color similar to what you see here in the options. The intent to keep the background coloring of the sign the same to match the schools.
I honestly hadn't considered
And then Jenny, did you see the picture of the sign?
I didn't see the picture of the sign.
If you could show Jenny, please. Thank you.
So what I was referring to when I asked about the color was the color of the lights, the LED lights. And are they going to be multicolored?
It is a capable, the board itself is capable of full color.
Okay,
The intent for the school messages would be the blue and the yellow scheme, or one color at a time. And that would also be like for the emergency, fire, ambulance, any township emergencies, you can put a red or orange or amber. Amber alert can go on there too. So it is capable of adjusting to that and being able to provide for emergency messages at different colors.
so for the case of both of the schools, the background remains black at all times with the single color availability for the messages themselves. So the white for the high school, red for the middle school. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Anyone else, please come forward. State your name and address for the secretary, please, Mr.
Are
Smith.
you just asking questions?
I have a question and I possibly have a comment.
Okay, why don't we swear you in? Can you raise your right hand? Swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Then can you state your full name, spell your last name, provide your address?
Adrian Meerman, 12 Brook Drive, here in Sparta.
And how do you spell your last name, I'm sorry?
Meerman.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
I have a question about the public purpose messages that you may display on the board. Would those be maybe multi-sentence messages? For example, heavy snow expected tonight, 8 seconds. Drive carefully, 8 seconds. Road slippery, 8 seconds. would that be a permitted use for your sign as a public service message?
That is something it could do. The board can display multiple lines, anywhere from 2 to 4. So depending on the message or the emergency, the amount of information that needs to be conveyed to the public, it's very adaptable that way.
Okay, I was thinking that a multi-sentence message is often so distracting and useless where you see them on the roads. You look for a message on the road and for 8 seconds it says drive carefully. What was the underlying message? So in terms of scrolling through a message, I'm just wondering if you have a dynamic billboard like that or a message board like that, if it might not defeat the purpose of alerting people to calm down, slow down, because they're focused on the next line of the message that tells them what the message was really about. So I would like to advocate for a more static board rather than a board that scrolls through messages and provides an additional distraction to drivers in that area, since we identified the area as a dangerous area.
But to respond to that, the condition that the school is willing is it's not scrolling. Having a sign that changes every 8 seconds, you drive through any construction zone and it will display for about 8 seconds, caution, construction ahead.
Oh, excuse me, yeah, we have that in the conditions there.
Right,
Messages, a sign will be static, no messages will be scrolled, and no
Right.
videos, et cetera.
correct. So the fact that there would be heavy snow expected, and you display that for 8 seconds, then roads may be slippery. That's not scrolling. That's a rotational message. In 8 seconds, it seems, 8 seconds is plenty of time. On that roadway, in 8 seconds, you have probably traveled about 600 feet. So you're only going to be able to read one of those messages as you go by. But the point is, you're going to see roads may be slippery. And you'll think, okay, well, I know it's supposed to snow tonight. So it's not like, if traffic is moving slowly because there's congestion due to a stopped school bus up the road, you may actually see 2 of the messages, but most times you're only going to see 1 message. So,
All right, thank you.
Can I just make?
Sure.
So my public service announcements are only going to be something that Sparta sends me and they want me to display. I have no intention to warn anybody about slippery weather or snow or anything like that. It's only going to be what you send me, and that's exactly what I'm going to put on the sign.
All right, thank you. Okay,
All right, so I think that addresses my point that these additional messages, whether you call it scrolling or turnover, are a distraction rather than a benefit to the town, the town's residents, especially since one of the purposes of this message board is to enhance safety as opposed to the opposite. Is there anything that can be taken up in any of the conditions? That the boards be static as opposed to dynamic?
and it will be static.
All right.
We have a whole report from our engineer, and the client, the applicant was very kind to go through everything with our board engineer and all the different conditions that they agreed to, and that's one that you just mentioned.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Second question is, will the color scheme change with the season at all? Will there be season-appropriate colors for announcing the school? Where you have, say, fall colors in the fall, spring colors in the spring?
I'm not sure I understand the question, sorry.
So if this is a board to announce the presence of the school, will there be a seasonal theme a seasonal theme to it also. Will the board change from spring to fall or summer to fall to winter?
I'm going to say no.
I don't think there was anything in testimony for that, so.
One design, and that is 365 a year.
Well, the wording, I
Precise.
mean, they may be announcing different events at the
Sure,
school or different
but the
community
color
events,
scheme will be identical.
but I don't think there's an intent to change the color scheme based on the seasons of the year.
I
Is
think
that-
that's, I think the seasons of the year would be subjective.
Again, there was no testimony given on that topic at all, so it's not
Identify seasons.
part of the application. So,
Meaning
Okay.
it will be one color throughout the year.
that's what they just said.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
I don't,
One color at a time.
colors won't be tied to the seasons is the question, I guess.
Correct. I'm not going to try to, I'm not going to tie the colors to the season.
Don't go there. All right?
All right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public, please come forward. Any other? Please state your name and address to the secretary, sir.
William Wilms.
Were you here at the last hearing, sir?
You want a spelling on that last?
You were at the last meeting,
I
correct?
was indeed.
And were you sworn in? I don't know if you remained under oath.
You
in the
did
last
swear me
hearing.
in.
Okay. If you could just state your full name again for the record.
Yeah, it's William Wilms. And I'm at 389 North Church.
Thank you, sir.
I'm there by the driveway. I've got copies of the changes. I get them. I still disagree, and I tend to agree with you, and I live right there. It is a dangerous place for the sign. I know a lot of the lighting, and I think one of the questions I have for you, sir, is option 1 and 2. Can we please clear up 1 and 2 on the upper? We're talking about the upper lit part of the sign. This is our new proposal. So option 1 is the upper end is lit. This will be internally lit, white. Has a white lens. Is that option 1? We'll have the upper lit.
Yes.
Right, so everybody there gets what option 1 is. And so 2 is the unlit sign can be hand carved. Usually some kind of relief, maybe some gold inlay leaf stuff, same stuff you see at Downing. Or, you know, the same as the existing sign that you see there. I'd like to resubmit the pictures of the sign that's there. I submitted these last time, but with new board members, I'd like to make sure they get to see what that sign looks like. And I have heard of traffic studies.
For that.
Well, I think we received them at the last hearing. I have
Correct.
01 through, I have 2 pictures.
There are 2 of them.
01 and 02, we received them at the last hearing, sir.
Did everybody get a copy of them?
Everyone should have a copy.
Okay, for traffic that isn't so, you know, questionable there. The one picture was, somebody had asked what the existing sign was. I had a great shot of it. Does show the traffic accident. The other one is the exact same spot. And here is the poor guy who tipped his car over on the side. Inattention, put a sign up there and watch a few more of those happen. That car flipped up on his side. He most likely wasn't paying attention.
Sir, if you're so
Gives
kind
them-
to, excuse me, sir, if you're so kind to keep the comments to exactly what you want to say to the applicant and professional.
Yeah, I wanted
we don't
to
go
make
off on a
make
tangent,
sure
if
that
you
we
don't
had,
mind. All right.
that we had the option 1 and 2. I mean, if you're going to approve anything like this tonight, I'm absolutely option 2. I don't need more lighting coming my way.
I think option 2 had the upper hand, right, Elise?
It does.
Option 2 had the
The
upper hand.
unlit upper sign. I know, sir, you were very concerned about lighting there at night. There's plenty of lighting. The entry driveway has 2 parking lot lamps. They're lit every night, every night. Now, they're tied to the seasonal timer. In 3 weeks, the clock will change. And you'll notice that as it's dark, they'll be on. They do come on. They don't come on until about 8. That's why you may have been driving by at night thinking it's so dark there. But at 7 and 7:30 and 6:30, but they're on. They're on every night. There's plenty of adequate lighting to pull in the driveway. Any more other lighting? The LED lighting is probably not going to be too much of an issue bothering me, but again, I'll state, this road is narrow. You got 1 lane each direction. There are no shoulders. There's no sidewalks. And distraction in the area. There are plenty of accidents. There has been no fatalities, though. I do note the Hopkins Corner area. There was no mention of fatalities down there. I'm sure the full police report, which I do not have, but living there, I know what it is. And the only one cited was a rear ender into the back of a dump truck. Young kid not watching, ran right into the back of him. But this particular school bus accident, which had occurred, there was no mention of that, or the car upended. It's still a pretty dangerous place to be. I don't believe we should have a sign there. And lighting, we don't need any more lighting. I was okay with the sidewalk being approved back in 2016, but this board, failing to recognize the original site plan from 2009, where the parking lot lamps would be turned off at 9 o'clock, but you superseded that. And now I have lights. I don't need to put my bedroom lights on the second floor because of it. Before any of these buildings were put in, I asked that we have parking lot lights put off at night. I'm well aware. And I know all of the nightly events through the school season. Of course you need parking lot lights on. That's not a problem. Quite used to it. It's almost 15 years now, so.
All right, sir. We
I do
appreciate
get the
all
thing
your
with the lighting.
comments. Thank you.
I will leave you alone.
Thank you, sir.
It's still not a good idea.
Anyone else in the public have any comments or questions, please come forward. Seeing no one else in the public has any comments or questions, we'll go back to the board. First of all, so you're all completed, no other
Yes, Mr.
information. Also, I want to thank you and your applicant and professionals for what you did in terms of revising the original application you came in here with. Really appreciate the changes that you made, all of you. All right, any other questions from the board members?
I have one more question. I'll comment. Would it be possible to put a stipulation into the sign that when the township's master plan comes out, because there still is some discussion about, multicolor backgrounds, this and that we're doing with the schools themselves. We probably would define that a little bit better in terms of brightness, et cetera, and timing in the master plan, if that
Well, it's funny you
defines it.
mention that, Jen.
No,
I'm on the master plan subcommittee. That'll be a topic that'll be coming up at the next meeting on the 6th, so.
that would be appropriate for that conversation. It's not appropriate for the application.
No, I mean, can we just put as a stipulation to them getting the sign that when the master plan comes out, that they would have to adhere to whatever?
Well,
or
we're
no?
approving what they're proposing tonight. I mean, I
Okay,
don't know with the
okay,
master
got it.
plan, where that's going to go. I mean, I don't.
Establish the guidelines
Of this board.
Got it.
No.
Got it.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
The chair will entertain a motion approving application 12-24 Sussex County Charter School Tech for D variance, but before the motion is made, just for the public, again, this sign will be for the charter school only and the Township of Sparta. They'll be the only two organizations to post on this sign. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to have the board attorney draft a resolution approving application number 12-24 for Sussex County Charter School, Block 15002, Lot 10, C1H at 383-385 North Church Road, seeking a D variance for a new monument sign with LED features with conditions that option 2 for the unlit hand-carved upper portion of the sign be utilized, that the LED portion be lit only during daylight hours, except when emergency announcements are required by either the charter school or the Sparta Township, or when evening events are taking place for public safety purposes. Sparta Township will have the ability to place community announcements and emergency announcements on the sign as needed by the township. The sign will not be animated or flashing. Messages will be static. No scrolling messages or videos will be permitted. 5 to 8 seconds minimum duration and no fading in and out will occur. No more than one message at a time will occur on the sign. Messages will be limited to those that are required by the charter school or the Township of Sparta. No third party will have the right to make any announcements on the sign. Sign brightness will be limited to 5,000 nits during daylight. The sign's features can be controlled remotely and promptly so that light intensity can be adjusted as needed. An as-built drawing will be provided, adherence to all stipulations in Mr. Stoner's report, and according to all plans, specifications, and testimony presented here tonight and at the prior hearing, September of '24.
Mike, just one addendum for the confirming all approval permits from our construction officials.
So amended.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Quick question on the definition of daylight operation. Is it in the record that it's from 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
I have that in the record, yes. And then evening hours as needed for their minimal events.
Rich?
Okay, yeah.
All right, Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer Panaha,
No.
Michael Joseph,
Yes.
Richard LaRufa,
Yes.
Michael Leondi,
Yes.
Richard Rohrbacher,
Yes.
Lana Teneri,
Yes.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
Yes. All right, congratulations, your sign has been approved. And again, thank you for all the revisions and changes that you had made from the original application. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Does the board want to take a 5-minute break or not? You do? The board will have a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
So moved.
All in favor? Called back to order. Thor Anderson, application 13-23. Please come forward.
How are you guys?
Okay. What's your name again, sir?
Good evening. My name is David Gray.
Oh,
I'm a
Mr. Gray, that's
lawyer
right.
at Gray Law Group. Route
And
15,
Mr. Gray,
Jefferson.
just before we begin, I had just 3 issues I want to clarify for the board and also for the public, going back to our December meeting. Do you remember when you asked Mr. Crescione, am I pronouncing that name correct?
Pretty close, Crescione, yes, sir.
Crescione? And he had stated about over 10 billboards being in Sparta, and that the sign your applicant was presenting would be smaller, et cetera. But just for the record, I know you're aware of it, that billboards that you see in town are grandfathered in. There's been no new billboards approved for many years. All the ones you see are grandfathered in. I just wanted to state that for the record, if you don't mind.
No, of course, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And I was curious when you had asked Mr. Crescione about the businesses, the local businesses that were polled, and all of them were in agreement that the sign would be a benefit. Did you ever have a list of these businesses, who they were, contact information, or what type of poll was it that these businesses said it would be a benefit to approve this sign?
With the chairman's permission, Mr. Crescione is here and perhaps would be better able to testify under oath to that as
Okay.
opposed to my just informing the board.
All right, great. And this is the last one. You know, it was brought up that the ambulance building was advertising other businesses besides their ambulance building. Do you have any evidence of that, since that's not permitted? Just the ambulance group is permitted to advertise ambulance functions. So I was just curious, in the minutes that was testified to, other businesses were advertising there. Do you have any evidence of that too, or not?
Again, Mr. Chairman,
Any
Mr.
bill?
Crescione is
All right.
here and can testify to that, and, you know,
Okay,
we all basically live in town and see what's on the board,
All
so
right, good.
we can go through that.
And then just for the public, again, this is a D variance. 5 yes votes will be needed to approve it. And if approved, the variance will go to the land in perpetuity. Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One more thing, everybody's up to speed on this one? Everybody was here for the
Oh, yes,
initial
Glenn,
hearing?
do you want to confirm for the public, everyone is certified to vote, et cetera?
That's what I was,
Yes.
yeah. So did you get,
I got everybody, yes.
okay, and we're gonna change the form or something, so you don't have to worry about getting notaries and stuff, but we'll take a look at that, because I know that created an issue or two, so if anybody else needed me to witness something, I'm happy to, but we're gonna change that and make your life a little more pleasant as board members.
All right, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Counselor, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. Again, my name is David Gray. I'm a lawyer at Gray Law Group, and I represent Tor Anderson, who's sitting here at the table with me. And this is a continuation of our presentation from December 11th, when the board heard pretty extensive testimony from Mr. Anderson. And I'm not going to rehash everything, of course, but just to very quickly summarize Mr. Anderson's position as a family farmer. And this is an application for his property on Route 15, Layton Road. It's 34 Layton Lane, but it's on Route 15 by Tor Anderson's farm stand. And it's there's a sign currently there. There'll be a little bit more testimony this evening about the current condition of the sign, which needs some upkeep and needed repairs. And this is an application to bring us a little bit into the future and modernize. But the proposed electronic multimedia board would advertise not just Mr. Anderson's farm at this location, but also, for example, his farm, the new one on White Lake Road, and the operation he has there, but as well as other local businesses and messages from the municipality of Sparta as well. Mr. Anderson testified about how it would help to get him through some lean winter months as we've had. But it's important to keep his farm functional and open. And those were some of the reasons that Mr. Anderson testified that he was making this application. There was also pretty extensive testimony from Mr. Anderson and from our planner, Donna Holmquist, who is here this evening in case any questions or issues come up, about how we were in conformance with all of Mr. Simmons's points that and recommendations that he raised in his letter on this application from April 10 of 2024. And again, just briefly, that included limiting nighttime brightness levels for the on-premise message center to 0.3-foot candles above ambient light conditions at appropriate distance. It included limiting the sign brightness to 5,000 nits during the daylight hours and 500 nits at night, requiring automatic brightness control such that it can be controlled automatically and remotely, requiring the display to go dark if there were to be a malfunction, requiring it to be a static sign so that there would not be any scrolling or animation, and requiring the display to remain static for a minimum of 5 to 8 seconds with an instantaneous change in messaging or display and no fading in and out, and requiring the sign controller to be fully adjustable so the light intensity can be adjusted as needed. And again, it would be a static display, no video display, no moving images. When we had concluded on December 11th, there were some questions about renderings, some questions about what the sign would look like, and we've come prepared to answer more of those questions and show you the renderings. We have handouts printed in color that we'd like to hand out to the board. And Mr. Crescione is here, who can really testify more knowledgeably about what the board and how the board would look and how it would be displayed. But before I bring him up, Mr. Anderson, it's his application, and I defer, of course, to the chairman to see if there were any questions of Mr. Anderson before Mr. Crescione would testify.
Mr. Gray, we'll wait until you're finished with the whole application, and then we'll go to our township engineer and then to the board for the questions.
Great, thank
Okay?
you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
So at this time, I'm going to ask Tor if you could just have, see in the back. I'm going to ask George Crescione to come up. He was sworn in last time. He is a representative from the sign company, and he can testify a little bit about the renderings of this sign, the other billboards that are in town, and give the board a little bit more insight in the look and feel of this particular multi-messaging center. So I didn't know if you wanted to swear him in again or keep him.
He's got a
sworn in.
long-term memory, so I will remind you that you're still under oath and you still have to tell the truth, okay? And would you just state your name for the record again, Judge?
George Crescione.
Thank you, Counselor. And Mr. Crescione, I know you have some handouts, and could you briefly, before handing those out, remind the board how you're connected with the application and what it is you're going to be speaking to this evening?
Sure. So first of all, thanks again for having us. We appreciate it. I am the sign controller for most of the digital signs that you've seen in Sussex and Morris County in our area, most notably the ones in Jefferson. Also over at Yetter's Diner, we operate those signs. We've been doing it for about 20 years now. All in all, I control about 100 digital signs in New Jersey, whether they're indoors or outdoors. But I am particularly in tune with Sparta businesses because that's where most of my signs are. So,
And Mr. Crescione, if you're so kind to stick to the new testimony tonight and not rehash prior testimony, because I would like to get this whole application in tonight
Understood.
for a vote.
So, Mr. Crescione, you have some handouts this evening. Can you briefly tell us what they show and then hand those up to the board?
Sure. So we've documented all the billboards in town. We've also documented all the digital signs, even if it's an on-premise sign. So just to show the plethora of different signs that we have in town, although they are grandfathered in, we just wanted to show you that on a daily basis, these signs exist and they don't really hinder anybody's life.
And with the chairman's permission, we'd like to approach and hand these out to the board. Go ahead.
You could bring them to our board
to
attorney
Marissa.
there.
Counsel, I'm just looking and there were no exhibits that we marked at the last hearing, were there?
No, these are new, this is new testimony. These
Are
are,
any exhibits that we marked into the
I-
record at the last hearing? I don't have any notes that we did. Donna, did we?
One planning exhibit.
One planning exhibit from you? Okay, so we're gonna mark this as A2. Up here. Just give me two, and, yeah, you can pass them out. And I'm gonna mark this as A2. For the record, it's gonna have a date on it of 2/26. And it's an exhibit consisting of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mr. Christian, would you have any extra ones for maybe the public if they want to see any? We have- Thank you.
So this is an exhibit of, it looks like 7 pages. 1, 2,
Oh,
I got my shoes on, so I'm having trouble counting. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So if you don't mind, I'll just quickly walk you through what.
It's easy. This, an exhibit of 8 sheets, and it's entitled North Jersey Advertising LLC 07871 Advertising Display. It's got a date on it of 2/5/25. All yours.
I'll just quickly walk you through.
Sure.
You can obviously see that I've documented a bunch of the signs that we see every day in town here. The first page these are static billboards. So many of these are lit. Okay, some are not, some are. Second page is the same. These are current static billboards that are existing in town every day. We also have some bus shelters that are displaying advertisement on the third page. Okay, moving right along. These are digital on-premise signs that we see in town. Some of them are gas station signs, some of them are similar to what we are hoping to do. Then we have a before and after sign, what's currently on the property and what we are hoping to reconstruct. And here is a larger rendition of the sign we are hoping to construct. After that is the current condition of the sign that is in place right now. And the final page is just a little layout of what our sign cabinets would look like, in case anybody wanted to see that.
Do you want to go through that in more detail, or do you want to now introduce this?
The page that I really want to focus on is the before and after page. This page is what I really want to look at first. As you can see, we are.
Could you speak into the microphone, Mr. Christian, please? We'll never pick up your conversation.
As you can see, there are not any real notable differences in the sign. Our current retaining wall is getting a little bit old and dilapidated. We'd like to upgrade that with a nicer stone look to fit into the area. And the sign itself is really only going to be a couple inches bigger in each direction, and that's really based on the way the signs are manufactured. There's really, it's really hard to get an exact size, so this was as close as we could get. But in terms of where the sign is existing, it is currently a permitted DOT advertising sign, and it has been forever, for many, many, many years. As you can see, actually not in this rendition, but if you look at the page of the current condition of the sign, you will see that there is a advertisement on it for a septic company. So this has always been a permitted advertising sign. So that's not something new that we would be asking to add. And at this point in time, very similar to the Yetters billboard that we did a couple years ago, many years ago now at this point, the sign was in dire need of a renovation. So we feel like this times up similar to that. And it is one of the first things you see when you pull in, when you're driving down Route 15 and you're going through this beautiful town, and we have this really nice opportunity to talk to people. And the sign's going to have to be resurrected one way or the other. So we feel like the sign needs improvements. We are not asking for a larger sign per se. The sign is going to be in the same spot. It is currently a permitted advertising sign, which there's really never been any problems with from the public displaying that sign. And it can be a whole lot more dynamic. Sure. Here's
Mr. Keynes, I'd like to now, Mr. Crescione would like to hold up another poster, which I would submit to the board as Exhibit A3, which is a large rendering of,
Essentially the same, council, as the sheet in the placemats that you passed out?
it is, it's just pulled out and blown up a bit to be larger.
Okay, that's fine. So A3 is, what size is that? 2 by 3?
Is this a 2x3?
This is a 24 by 36 poster. Is that?
Boom, that'd be 2 by 3.
Oh, my lawyer math puts it about 2x3.
I'm going with that.
I didn't know if you were talking about the signs.
Those are good.
Okay. All right, so we'll mark that as A3, and you'll eventually leave that with our boss over here.
Run through this quickly. The columns that we would use are identical to the columns that are there right now in terms of size and color. Okay, so those wouldn't change. You can see that there's some decorative top caps on there. We would leave those on there as well, just so the sign style doesn't change at all. Okay, once again, we talked about the size of the sign. Based on the manufacturer, it's only a couple inches off in each direction. Okay, and we see on the bottom a very much improved stone facade to that wall, okay, with some nice landscaping to match the farm. Okay, and the way that it sits down in that gully is really nice because it's a very comfortable eye level read. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Crescione, I see you have plugged a television in here,
I did.
and I think you have some display you'd like to be able to show to the board that's on the TV.
So last time we were in, I think it was Michael asked me, I think you were asking if there was a way to see the brightness of the actual billboard. But what I decided to try to do was recreate this entire thing for you to show you what it would look like with live traffic going by, and to give you a better idea of how this would fit into the landscape. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in for you.
Mr. Keynes, Mr. Crescione is about to show a rendering on digital media, and it's on a flash drive, correct? And we can leave the flash drive here,
And you will.
perhaps mark that as Exhibit A4.
Yes, A4 will be a flash drive. And David, how would you just summarize what's on there, bud?
This will be an animated rendition of the site.
Mr. Crescione, when you take that microphone over there and take that over to the screen so we can have you recorded, please. You can take it out of there too, if you want.
Yeah, so I wouldn't call it animated. This is a live video of traffic rolling by, and we have integrated the sign that we want to build into the actual video.
All right, so let's call A4, David, just a flash drive live animated video. All right, Mr. Chairman, we do have, it appears, 2 members of the public. So I don't know how How long is this gonna take?
1 minute.
Okay, my suggestion is that the public should be allowed to just come, they can stand in front of me over
Sure.
here or something, if they want to see it. Does the rest,
Public want to come forward to view this? That's right.
I didn't see the third.
Stand right here.
You're good.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Yep, so that's signage for Mr. Anderson's farm, that first one. This is a local business, Cavalier, who would love a directional off the highway. That's thanking you for visiting our great town. Okay, and that message can be modified anytime, any day. Here's another local business right down the road that would probably love to get some highway exposure. That's Salon de Panache. That's another sign talking about Mr. Anderson's satellite farm on White Lake Road. And there's a urgent care that's less than a mile from there that has expressed interest in this. And that's back to the ice cream ad. So that would be a typical kind of rotation where we had a little bit of Sparta, a little bit of Mr. Anderson for his on-premise usage, and a little bit of local businesses that would like to get some exposure.
Thank you.
Mr. Crescio, the chairman brought up some issues at the beginning of this presentation this evening. Questions about local Sparta businesses expressing interest in utilizing the sign. Can you please shed some light on your discussions with local businesses with some specificity with respect to how the sign is intended to be used for the benefit of local businesses?
Sure. So as I previously stated, I'm very in tune with Sparta businesses and their marketing. There aren't really a lot of options like this in terms of a digital billboard that businesses would like to use to take advantage of traffic going through their town. Yes, I pictured many billboards up there, but the difference with those billboards is they are national billboards, okay? And the first people that get to advertise on those billboards are national companies. And if you look at those pictures, a lot of it is state of New Jersey ads where they gobble up these billboards because they have enormous budgets and they can do it. And a lot of it is national businesses that buy these billboards by the thousand. And meanwhile, we have Coca-Cola on our Route 181 billboard through Outfront, and our local businesses are trying to get onto these billboards and they can't. The difference between
Mr. Crescio, not to interrupt,
Yep.
interrupting you.
Yep.
Who are the businesses?
Sure, off the top of my head, I can name many people that I've spoke to in the
You
past.
spoke to these businesses,
I do their marketing currently. So for instance, I like to focus on that corridor because these are going to be the businesses that are most interested, although all Sparta businesses are going to want to be on there. But Hayden's Towing, Bubba Coo Burritos, Industry we've worked with. They use billboard space all over the place. They'd
work with them,
love.
so when you approach them, they'll have interest in advertising on this sign? or they
I
already
could
said
say
they're
this.
committed to it?
I've been doing this for a long time. If this sign were to happen, we would have an influx of advertisers from Sparta, New Jersey that would be dying to get onto this sign, dying. So yes, but let me just give you a couple more names. I told you Bubba Coo's Burrito has interest in the billboard.
Because I know where the chairman is going. You just showed a representation of 8 or 10 different local businesses. Were any of those on the list?
Every business that has been pictured has shown interest in working with us digitally, somehow, some way. And
Every picture, everyone that was on your flash drive?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. And another thing I'd like to point out is I control billboards that are north and south of here, okay? And a lot of people will ask me, why do your billboards have so many Sparta businesses on there? So here we have Sparta businesses, and they're advertising in Jefferson. They're spending their ad dollars in Jefferson because there's nowhere to do it here. And then if you go a little further north, I have Sparta businesses that are advertising in Frankfurt because it's the next closest thing. If we could connect those dots and give all these local businesses a chance to be on that corridor, on that sign, we will make a true difference in these people's lives. We really will. Marketing, as a lot of people in here know, marketing is a great thing, but sometimes it can be a little difficult to sustain. The reason we are different is we are local. We work with local businesses. I really can't name any national companies that we work with. Everything we do is local to our signs. This sign would be a big time hit for everybody, for the schools who we work with in Jefferson, the Jefferson Township Schools, and I reference them because they're the next closest thing. But when they need bus drivers, they call me. When the student of the month hits, they call me. They call me for anything public that they need, you know, even if it's just a carnival or a fundraiser. It's really a great way to tie the town together, and I know you've heard it all before. I know every person has said the same spiel, but we see it happening every day. And I'll go back to the first thing I said last time, and I'm sorry for backdating, but we help sick kids. We help with school fundraisers. We really help raise awareness, and it goes way past business marketing. And I also want to address the second thing you said about the ambulance station advertising other businesses. I would like to clarify that because maybe I said it wrong. What I meant to say was the events that they're marketing are their events, but sometimes they're off-site. So they'll say things like photography club, and it will be at a different site. So I do stand corrected for the record.
Thank you.
I do stand corrected because as I was studying that sign, that is not true. All of their content is for themselves, but sometimes it appears to be off-site. So I apologize for that.
Clarifying that. Appreciate it. Oh, just before, you have a question?
Yeah,
Let's let them finish. I'm sorry I did my little spiel before we got to the whole board. But let them all finish the presentation and then we can open it to Corey and then to us, Rich. I was a little out of process.
Okay, okay,
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think at this time we're concluded with respect to testimony. And of course, we'd like to incorporate the December 11 testimony into this
Sure.
presentation. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So,
George, you can have a seat.
Corey, I'll open it to you for your report, please. Right. And Corey, could you speak louder too into that? Because I don't know if Marissa will be picking you up. Thank you.
The advertising sign was not created in zone, so it's a B1 variance. David had a comment about the placement of the sign, the location. According to your code, it states that all signs have the freestanding signs have to be fitting each zone. At the 25 feet from the right of the sign, the whole 3.5 feet. That's shown on the updated as-built drawing that was provided. I'm not sure if that was the original package or if that was a supplemental item that was provided. As-built drawing, but their entity is 3.5 feet from the right of the sign itself will meet the requirement for area. Height is allowed 16 feet. This is 6.2 feet. It'll be up to 6.2 feet on top of a stone base. You know how large the stone base is, or will be?
So I don't have the exact height, but it will be identical to what is there right now. So whatever the height is there right now, it will match. The width of the stone will be less to bring us away from the right-of-way a little bit, because right, as it stands right now, the flower bed around the bottom with the retaining wall is way too big.
Height itself will still be no closer to 3.5 feet.
Correct.
And here's that the existing base is about additional 2 feet, so you add that to the 6.2 feet for the sign, is still much lower than the 16 that's allowed on the zone. There was a bunch of conditions there, under David's reports under 4F. Mr. Gray went through every one of those items, and approval granted by the board should have, my recommendation to have all those conditions included. The existing sign has is two-sided. Can you explain whether or not this sign will be two-sided?
It will be.
Because you have some details that show that you have a sign, and then there's some, it looks like you need access to the back.
These signs can be accessed for service from the front or the back. But if you see on my sign outline here, I do say that it's a two-sided, I'm not sure, two-sided LED sign. It'll be a front service sign, so we could work on it from the front. Hopefully, we won't have to work on it.
Because you look at the detail, the access through the back, and obviously there's two-sided, you can't really get to the back.
Right, so
You said before this existing, existing permitted sign?
yes.
When you say permitted sign, was it actually, there's only permits that were issued for that sign?
Goes back before I want it as is.
Existing non-conforming sign that just has existed for many years, and not that finished sign. A freestanding sign that's been there for many years. Doesn't meet the requirements, so I'm assuming it's an existing non-conforming sign on the property. And a couple of conditions, maybe that listed, the board, approves, obviously the construction official, building permits will be required. This one does require the outdoor advertising permit from the DOT because it's advertising sites not on the property. And question an as-built plan to verify that it is placed in the location.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Corey. Before we get to the board, Mr. Gray, does Mr. Anderson have any testimony he wants to give tonight?
I think, Mr. Chairman, he would rest on the testimony that he had already provided. It was pretty in-depth and detailed, went through his history of the property, his work history, how he operates the farms, and, what this application really means to him and his family farm.
Okay.
But I'll ask him real quick if there's anything else he'd like to add.
I'm a man of very few words.
All right.
The
thank you.
farmer submits to the discretion of the board at this time.
Thank you. Marissa, you can call the board members, please, for their questions and comments.
Jennifer Panaha,
No questions.
Michael Joseph.
Yeah, just want to get some clarity on some, I think two items. One, what is the percentage of advertisement for outside businesses versus Anderson Farms?
It's generally an 8-person rotation. So Anderson will always be on there, okay? Within his space, he can advertise as many things as he wants, okay? So to answer your question, it's going to be 1/8 Anderson. The other 1/8 will be Sparta, okay? So you have two of the spots taken up, and the rest will be advertisements, hopefully.
And is his eighth of time any different from everybody else's, or is it all equal?
No, there is a state mandated duration of advertisement, which is 8 seconds.
He
Not-
he asked a different question. He asked the right question. It's going to be 8 seconds for Anderson, 8 seconds for Sparta, and then the remaining 6 will each get 8 seconds.
Correct, yeah.
And then one other item that wasn't clear was, mentioned that there's going to need to be the outdoor DOT permit for advertising, right? You mentioned that. But then there was some testimony saying that they already have it. Does that transfer? Do they not have it now currently? How's that?
So there's currently was a permit for a static billboard. We were approved for a double-sided digital permit from the state of New Jersey.
This was approved
It
already?
was approved, yeah, we have it.
Oh, okay. All right, that's
I
all the
believe it's in
questions.
in our original application.
Permit that agrees with what's been presented to the board?
Correct.
Go ahead.
They actually approved us for a much larger sign, but we don't need it.
Richard LaRufa.
Yeah, I just, two clarifications. One, is your application, watching the video of the last hearing, I got the impression that you were going to give preferential consideration to Sparta businesses. But the impression I'm getting tonight is that you're giving exclusive preference to Sparta, and it will only be Sparta businesses advertised on this sign. Like, I have no problem if a sign says, even like Ocean States in Sparta. I mean, in this area of the road, probably 80% of the people that drive past this sign don't live in Sparta. And it's a benefit to the businesses in Sparta, especially in the township center, or even like the Commerce Park off of White Lake Road on the other side of 15 there, that they can advertise. But if your if your sign is going to be exclusive to those businesses in Sparta, I wouldn't care if CVS put a sign up and said CVS Sparta, New Jersey, or PNC Bank, or Liquor Factory, or any of them. But just the only people who would be given usage of this sign is businesses in Sparta Township.
I don't remember saying that.
No,
And-
at the last, my impression from the
Exclusive?
last hearing
No.
was that we'd be given preferential
Okay.
choice, not
But not,
exclusive.
correct, but not, so the way this will probably hash out, okay, is we will have people from all over the place that want to be on this sign. It's going to be popular. It is a Sparta sign. We will give the Sparta businesses the first chance to be on there. What does that mean? On every sign I've ever managed, anywhere from here to Belleville, there's always extra spaces, always. Even on this sign, there will be extra spaces. It's just how marketing is. There will be no problem getting all of our Sparta businesses on the sign. No problem at all.
My concern is that you're asking for a variance, and it's a D variance, and you have to provide both the positive aspects of it and the negative aspects of it. And I think it goes a long way to your case if you're able to say that this is exclusively for Sparta Township businesses, because then the sign almost becomes a Chamber of Commerce sign. And to me, that's favorable, okay? But if you say that anybody can advertise on it, then it becomes a question of the money and who has it and who wants to advertise. And as I say, if CVS wants to advertise on this sign, I don't have a problem if they say CVS Sparta, because people driving on Route 15 don't necessarily know there's a CVS in Sparta Township. Okay, but that's a Sparta business that can use it, or one of the other local businesses too. We had testimony from an excavator, recycling business off of Houses Corner Road, who said he wanted to advertise in it. And same with the Commerce Park on White Lake Road, the gymnasiums and the businesses in there. They can benefit from this sign. People, again, the 80% of the people driving on this road who don't live in Sparta can see what's in Sparta, and so that becomes a benefit to your application. But if it's not exclusive, then you don't have that benefit to the township. So, which way are you
So
proposing?
I'll-
I'm asking you. I'm asking the applicant. I'm asking you, the attorney, and the applicant. What are you proposing? Is it exclusive for Sparta businesses, or is it preferential for?
Sure,
Sparta
what I'm proposing is preferential, okay? And the reason for that is there will be some businesses that are on the Lafayette Sparta line, okay? We would never turn those people away, okay? As long as there was a reasonable amount of space, and based on what I know, there will always be space on this sign. So everybody will be taken care of, everybody. It's just the way the signs go. I wish they were so busy that I could say to you that, it's not, we're gonna have space for everybody. So Sparta businesses will have the very first opportunity to be on this sign. If there are many extra empty spaces, we will take in our neighbors. But businesses will have the first chance to be on that sign in their own township, on their road.
And I see Mr. Anderson would like to also respond to Mr. LaRufa's comment. Tor, why don't you
Come forward
speak into the
to the
microphone?
microphone, Mr. Anderson.
Can I make a comment on that? What if we said it was all local businesses that were in the general vicinity, local towns in Sussex County, and kept it, so we're supporting local, not these people that want to pay a lot of money to be on there, but they're not local and they're not supporting our townships. Would that,
It doesn't.
you want to
doesn't
make it
give
just
the
Sparta?
benefit- It doesn't
Yeah,
give the
I-
benefit to the township for a variance.
I know what you
And
mean.
again, as I say, it almost becomes a Chamber of Commerce sign, which is a benefit, a definite benefit to the township and the local businesses.
I agree with you, yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Crucione.
Do I have an answer to my question?
No.
Oh,
How many
I think they gave the answer, Rich.
spots are there to fill?
I don't know.
Isn't that the question?
Well,
Is it 1,000? Is it 15,000?
how
I have
many-
no idea.
How many spots are, the question, how many spots are there in a fill to satisfy?
No, it's not 8. You're not gonna run the same 8 over 8 times 8 seconds, that's 64. So it's just 8. I assume that there are 100 easily because you'll have different cycles, right?
And just a note for everyone, Glenn, everyone on the board, the public, we have 20 minutes to adjournment because I adjourn at 10 PM sharp. I hate to carry this to the next meeting. So
This-
just keep that all in mind,
To answer your
everyone.
question quickly, in this situation, there would be 16 available spots. If we felt like increasing that, we could, but we won't need to. We'll have 2 digital sides. We'll have plenty of room for Sparta first. Anybody else that follows after that, we'd love to have them, but Sparta first.
George, let's just, it's strictly Sparta. You got to be in Sparta.
Okay.
We're going to support Sparta Township. It's, keeps me in business, and we want to help all the other businesses in, so only for Sparta.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
Marissa, the next board member, please.
Michael Leondi,
I am good, thank you.
Richard Rohrbacher.
I have a couple of questions, but they're not directly related to the sign itself. They deal with the testimony back on December 11th. I believe the planner gave it, and I'd like to hold my questions until the planner gives their testimony.
Mr. Rohrbacher, the planner testified on December 11. She is here to answer any questions.
Okay,
I
all
was
right.
not planning on eliciting
Okay.
more and additional testimony from her.
No,
But she
no.
is here to answer questions of the
Okay,
board.
That, I just wanted to get that clarified. I'm not a very bright person.
No, please, we're all in it together, and she's here, and I would suggest that the chairman
I believe
suggested.
in her, if I remember her testimony correctly, she said there were approximately 28,000 cars, and I don't remember the time frame.
Please come up forward and
To the
speak into the
microphone, please.
microphone. And
remind
give
you, you're still
your
on the road?
name and address
Yes.
again. You're still on the road.
Donna Holmquist, CEO, Preferred Planning Group, Montvale, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yes, to respond to you, the testimony was from NJDOT volumes from 2019. And they're two-way volumes, and it is daily volume.
Oh, it's the daily.
Yes,
Okay, I
and the
just-
number, the exact number was 28,894 vehicles.
All right. I live not too far from Mr. Anderson's farm and farm stand. And I've noticed over the years that the traffic volume has increased considerably on Route 15. And I've also noticed that there can be some difficult times in egress and entering your farm stand area. My how does this signage address those issues?
As a lawyer, sometimes I restate a question from my own head. And if I'm correct in understanding, you're asking, how does the sign impact people getting in and out of the farm stand,
Because
if
there's
at
a
all?
the traffic can be a bit difficult to navigate going into the, especially if you need to go into the opposite direction.
Sure. I guess I can ask either the planner, Ms. Holmquist, or Mr. Anderson, whether or not they believe this proposed sign would affect traffic coming in or out of the site, if at all.
Or even Ms. Holmquist would be fine.
Right. So the way the sign is positioned, it is located in a place that it will be within the field of vision, and it's sized appropriately for the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. Somebody would see this sign from, I would estimate, about 400 feet away. It would come into view, and they would have about 6 seconds to read the sign if they were traveling at the speed limit. So I think it will enhance safety by being more recognizable and easier to read than the existing sign, if that responds to your concern.
It's
All
a
right.
it is a response that I will accept, yes.
And Rich, just keep mindful of the time, if you can
Yes,
speed it up.
and I have one other quick question. It's not for you particularly, at least I don't think so. There's been a sign on your, Mr. Anderson, on your property for as long as I have been a resident in the township, advertising North Jersey Septic and Excavating. Is that sign still there right now? Okay, what happens to that sign?
North Jersey Septic is my neighbor,
I understand that.
so it was there when I bought the place, and I like to have good neighbors, so we always let him keep it there. When we change it, he's gonna have an opportunity to purchase space on the sign. So,
Oh, okay, all right, okay, I'm good for now.
okay.
Thank you.
Landon Teneri.
I just have one question. So kind of on the lines of what we were just speaking about with the current sign, when you're heading northbound, it says Farm Market, AndersonFarmNJ.com. Is there a bit of a concern now that from having because you're not going to really see it when you're heading southbound on the other side of traffic at times with, the road. Is there concern that new residents and going forward in the future that the actual marketing of this location itself is going to be put behind and clearly 7 out of 8 times marketing something else? Has that been a thought process at all or just a concern?
And again, just to kind of restate the question, do you think it would cause confusion to people if this proposed sign was approved in what is the Anderson Farmer Market right there? Would there be any confusion? I guess to speak to that, I would ask Mr. Anderson perhaps to just address that. Do you think it would be confusing to people driving up if there was an advertisement for a local business? Let's say it's the Green 973 with indoor golf. And will they think that your farmer's market is that location?
You're the marketing expert, so I maybe should let you answer this one. You might have a better answer
The
than
way
me.
I would answer that is Mr. Anderson already has on-premise signs, okay, at his entrance. So he has those already. This has been an advertising billboard since the beginning of time.
All right, thank you.
That's all my questions.
Thank you, Landon. You have any other closing testimony, Mr. Gray, or are you finished?
No, we're finished, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for your time. I do
you.
ask that the December 11th pretty comprehensive testimony be considered by the board as well.
Thank you. I'll now open it to the public. If anyone in the public has any comments or questions, please come forward. Okay, thanks.
Jenny Derricks, Tap into Sparta. I just have a quick question. Are you going to accept election ads, campaign ads?
Anything reasonable and respectful.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Sir, please give your name and address to the board secretary.
Yes, Tom Schoonmaker, 66 Cheyenne Trail, Sparta. I've been here for 35 years, have several businesses in town. We have a recycling business on Houses Corner Road, and we would really, really jump on this sign. We have another business that I'd also put on the sign. So be counting Tor and counting Sparta and counting two of me, that's already four. You know, I just think that the thing is going to be fabulous for the town and the local businesses. I really do. I think we need to show, you know, where we're at with all the businesses.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
No one else in the public, please come forward, sir, and be mindful of the time limit, too, that we have.
Oh,
if
yeah,
you-
my
so
fault,
fine.
my question.
State your
Thank
name
you,
and
thank you.
address again.
Thank you. Adrian Meerman, 12 Brook Drive. I'm looking at the exhibit that was presented to us. And on this page, I see the existing sign for the farm market, Anderson Farm, New Jersey, and then the new billboard that we saw on your video display. In terms of safety, driving down that road at 50 miles an hour, the planner mentioned that a rapidly turnover of messages will improve safety. I would disagree with that. I would say if you're looking for a farm market, and it's a farm market, and you see that sign, and you have time to take that in, you also have time to slow down and make the turn safely. We know that 15 has become increasingly unsafe with increasing traffic accidents week after week. And a sign that only has an 8-second turnover until the next message, which has no thematic relationship to the previous one. It can be this, it can be that, it can be this, it can be that. How is that going to improve safety, the attention span, the focus of the driver on the safety on the road if they're looking for Anderson Farms? So I would say that a constantly rotating message does not improve safety on Route 15. A completely static sign, beautifully done, why not? Going towards the farm would definitely be a safe option. A rotating, I mean, I looked at the video that you showed us, and I just had to hold on to the desk because it makes you dizzy. Changes constantly. A completely static sign is beautiful. It's in keeping with also an agricultural character of the business. I believe this is agriculturally zoned. And when I look at a constantly changing message, I wonder what's the relationship between an agricultural use and that kind of billboard that advertises, even if it advertises local businesses. It could advertise for the used car salesman. You know, no cash, no credit, no problem. 10 miles up ahead, fast Eddies, used cars. How is that agricultural? Now,
And sir, if you want to keep mind of the time, because again, we adjourn at 10 PM sharp.
yeah, okay.
So if you can speed it up, I appreciate it.
We'll slow the clock down. The other thing is about this sign being potentially on and illuminated day and night. Now, we had a previous application for the school where it was only daytime. This one also is illuminated at night. Now, I know that across the road, you have Primrose Lane, it's a residential area. They enjoy the dark skies at night. But now we have every 8 seconds a new color scheme, a new message, and even though the light intensity is lower, your night vision adjusts to that lower light also. You're still going to see it. You lose your dark sky, for which Sparta is known, for which people, who live on Primrose Lane just enjoy that, and that will be taken away from them. Last thing is that the new sign, I see the construction detail here. It is, anchored in the ground. It sits on two steel beams, I-beams, and I don't see any kind of ornamentation around the billboard itself. It looks like two poles and a high-tech display on either side. And I don't see how that is really in character with Sparta as this beautiful town, as you have called Sparta, on a regular, basis in your testimony. I would like to see much more detail on what that future sign is going to look like. Because as I see it now, it is a large TV screen, if you will, on two steel poles. I think that before we go to any vote, we need to know what this is going to look like. Is this agricultural? Maybe. But is this our view of an agricultural rural community? No, I think it's a step away from it. This is a step away from it. And so I have concerns about both the kind of sign that it is and also the execution of the sign, as well as the living standards of the people who live on Primrose Lane and further up the 15, who will be driving by this day and night also. Thank you.
All right, thank you again, sir. I just have one comment before we take a motion to vote on this application. I remember Ms. Anderson came in for the first hearing, and he was honest enough to say the only reason he was here for this D variance was solely because of financial hardship. And that's in the minutes. I feel for his plight on the financial side, but I don't ever remember this board, I don't know about these members, because I've been here the longest, approving a D variance solely on a financial hardship. Plus, this will be the first type of sign, if approved in Sparta, that type of advertising and everything you spoke about, Mr. Gersoni, in the testimony. So I just want to make it clear for the record. Sounds good, all the businesses in Sparta will be advertising it, all the businesses outside of Sparta will be advertising it?
No.
Or not, but, so the other businesses, Rich?
Mhm.
And approving a D variance solely on a financial hardship, it's never been done that I know on this board. Usually there's other mitigating factors besides a financial hardship, but Mr. Anderson was kind and honest to say that's the only reason he was here. Financial difficulty with his farm, and this would help him with all the money that would be brought in from the advertising. So I just want to state that for the record. The financial hardship is not the sole reason to approve a D variance. Any other comments from this board before we take a motion to vote on the application? Marissa, please call the roll.
Jennifer
Oh,
Bernal.
excuse me, I think I had to close the hearing to the public. There was no one else in the public that wanted to come forward?
Tom Schoonmaker again. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, Chairman, in all due respect, okay? I don't think that's the sole reason that he's doing it. I think he's also doing it for people like myself.
Well, that
Okay,
was,
and-
I hate to disagree, but that was the original statement when he came in here, which I understood and feel for him. He said it was a financial hardship that he needed this sign. Now, after the fact of having other businesses, like you say, to advertising, that's going to be promoting money coming in to help him.
Correct.
And again, legally, for variances, I've never seen it done. That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
I wouldn't put so much emphasis on that, okay, because this is just one small facet of his business. This guy's busy 24/7. doing everything to get ready now and get all supplies and get ready for the season. And, everybody goes there. I don't mind that little bit of traffic that you talked about to go and get the tomatoes that he's got. You know what I'm saying? It's just,
no, I understand.
I think you really got to think about what you're saying here. I think, he's got a special situation.
Special situation, sir, but for a financial hardship only in terms of the legal law of variances being approved or denied, a D variance, a use variance. The criteria is very high to approve something like that, and financial hardships are never considered.
Well, I
So
don't.
that's all I'm stating for the record. I
Yeah,
don't know
no,
how
no,
this
no,
board is gonna-
I hear you, but I don't know if we roll back through, if that emphasis was put, when he made his testimony, if that was really the emphasis that was, meant to be said by you, okay?
Well, he was honest enough when he came in here that first
Well,
meeting.
he's
I
very
give you
honest.
credit,
He's a very
Mr.
honest
Anderson.
guy. He's a very honest guy, but I don't think that situation should blow his application. I think that's crazy. I think it's got more to do with the people in the area to advertise for them, like myself, who people don't even know where I am. I need somebody to say, yeah, here, go that way, to go to my business, right? I think it's got way more of that type of thing going for it than the money. This guy, he's got several things that he does to earn money for his family. This is not the only thing he does.
No, I know.
You ought to give him the opportunity to retract what he said and think about it and give you a piece of testimony that you can work with and do this and approve it. I'm all for approving it, and I appreciate you taking your time, everybody, to.
I don't know how the rest of the board is going to
Well,
vote us, but I
Whatever,
understand.
that's their opinion, but nonetheless, we appreciate you all taking your
thank you
time
too.
because, you could be home watching TV.
Thank you for
Well,
understanding.
we would ask that the board consider all the testimony provided by the applicant, not just that one statement, which was an honest statement, but he provided a lot of testimony, as did the applicant's experts as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. The board will entertain a motion approving the application.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to have the board attorney draft a resolution approving application number 13-23 for Tor Anderson, Block 17002, Lot 2 at 34 Layton Lane, seeking D variance for an upgraded monument sign with LED features with conditions that light levels can be adjusted as needed if requested by the township, as testified to during the last hearing. As-built plans prepared by a licensed surveyor to ensure we avoid the DOT right away. Advertising be limited to Sparta businesses and all other stipulations laid out in Mr. Simmons's report, according to all plans, specs, and testimony and exhibits provided.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any final discussion?
One comment, it was brought up, should this also display political signs and that type of thing? I think this should be exclusive to a business, a commercial advertising, and not allowed to have any other type of political signs or campaign signs or social justice signs or anything. And I think that goes to the benefit of the township as this being the equivalent of a Chamber of Commerce type of board.
The condition says Sparta businesses.
Sparta businesses, yes.
You accept that amendment, Mike?
I do. Are you guys good?
And who gave the second?
I did.
Marissa, call the roll, please.
Jennifer Panaha.
No.
Michael Josovic.
No.
Richard LaRufa.
Yes.
Michael Leondi.
Yes.
Richard Rohrbacher.
No.
Lana Teneri.
Yes.
Chairman Kenneth Larry.
No. What was the final vote, Marissa?
3 yeses and 4 nos.
All right, the application's been denied, since you need 5 yes votes to approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Anyone in the public have any comments on issues not on the agenda tonight? If not, close to the public and the meeting will adjourn. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Second.
All right, thank you, everyone.
We're on
Thank
agreement.
you.